Hello and welcome back to Off Track Podcast with me, Dave Neal. As you can maybe tell, this week's guest is Trackhouse Racing MotoGP's Matt Lloyd. It's the first in our series of mechanics chats with his brother next week and Johnny Air the week after. We do like a guest who brings us gifts. Thank you so much, Matt, for the Trackhouse Racing gear. This is fantastic. So why not wear it on the intro? What a great guy. Thank you so much, mate. We've got stories from World Superbikes. We've got stories from the TT. We've got stories from British Superbikes and MotoGP coming up. Stories from Neil Hodgson, stories about James Toseland, and stories about Kia on a pool table. I can't wait to share it with you. As always, before we get started, please make sure you like and subscribe to what we do. The more we get, the more we can do, the more great guests like Matt we can bring it. It's as simple as that. I know it's the same every week, but it really is important that you like and subscribe to what we do, because then we can just keep going. Anyway, that's enough from me. Here he is. It's the brilliant Matt Lloyd. Enjoy.
Matt Lloyd, Trackhouse Aprilia.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, mate. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having us on.
You're welcome. This is a new thing for you, isn't it? This is a little bit different.
It's been a while. Anyway, when we first chatted about it coming on, it was
Before Cadwell.
I think it was before then, I reckon.
Yeah, way before Cadwell, yeah. We were trying to do it for Cadwell, weren't we? We were talking about it a bit.
But yeah, just fitting us around after back into the season and get us in the off season. Now you're fitting us in around all my job list, what my missus have given me.
The thing is, you've got nothing to do now till the end of January, so it's giving you a massive list of things. Same with anybody who works in MotoGP. You think it's going to be a nice, no, you've got this to do, this to do, this to do, this to do. One thing I was thinking about on the way over, and it only occurred to me as I was driving across this morning. Can you remember the first time we met?
I'm not sure. I think first time proper spoke, I think when I saw you in Austin.
That was one of the first, yeah, but the first time we actually met was Misano 2013.
You bet? Really?
Not 2013. No, it would have been. Yes, it was, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I had to think then. Misano 2013, you were working with Idemitsu.
Yeah.
And Jason O'Halloran was over doing the JAR wildcard.
Yeah.
And I was over there with Jordan Weaving.
Oh, okay.
And that was, we'd only met briefly.
Yeah.
But that was the first time we actually met.
Oh,
which is,
there you go. Yeah.
11 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's nuts, and you've been here, there, and everywhere since. And
yeah,
we'll go through the career, because it's a fascinating background to what you're. Let me looking at that. You sent me this, so you know what's on this little bit of paper. Tell us about the last couple of seasons, because the most recent rider you've been working with at Trackhouse Aprilia is Miguel Oliveira.
Yeah.
So tell us about the last couple of years and introduce people to what you do in MotoGP.
Yeah, well, the Trackhouse took over for this year from the RNF setup, which before that was Yamaha, before it was Petronas. So the team is pretty much as it was for the last 5 years. The more guys are more or less the same. A few more Aprilia guys came in. Swapped to Aprilia when it was still RNF. Bit of a mess at the end of the year, which I don't know if we can talk about it too much, but yeah. And then luckily these American guys, Trackhouse, who have a NASCAR team in America, have 2 drivers. They wanted to get involved. I think they wanted to come in a bit later than you anticipated. Yeah. But they got involved, and it was pretty much this time last year, the Valencia test. But it was a bit of a mess with the contracts, with whatnot. I mean, it was above my pay grade, you know what I mean?
Have I got a job next year? Yes, fly.
But all we knew is Miguel Oliveira's dad walked out of the box and he just said to us, says, "You boys, don't worry about next year. It's going to be really good." This was this time last year.
Yeah.
So at the time, we all got told we have Aprilia contracts, all like the factory team, and this isn't this. But then the guys from the UK, with how we got paid from Europe and whatnot, we then got Trackhouse contracts, which have been amazing. You know, it's been really good. So yeah, these Americans got involved, started testing, got 2024, the factory bike for Miguel. Raul stayed on the 23 bike. But for Miguel, it was a jump from the 22 bike, what we'd had in 2023. So it's quite a big jump. And it weren't as good as it could have been. But yeah, we just got on with it. The season's not been too bad. We started in Qatar with a long lap. what carried over from Qatar the previous year, which he got injured in. So yeah, throughout this year, we've been there or thereabouts. Some races. Highlight was Saxon Ring with the sprint podium, but then he got injured again in Indonesia. So then if Miguel got injured, we get the Aprilia test driver Lorenzo Savadori.
Salvador, yeah.
So he comes in, a cracking lad, but he's not the level of the guy. So pretty much we then go into more of a test role. So we're testing things for the 25 bike this year. So some races we didn't finish in Motegi. Yeah, it looks bad on us, but we knew it was for the bigger picture.
It's a bit different behind the scenes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's always two sides to every story.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in the timesheets never tell the full story.
Yeah.
Especially not at that level.
But we was probably doing more work, changing things, testing things in the last 3 or 4 races than you probably had done the rest of the season. And then you're not getting the results because, you're sort of racing and testing. And
Reward doesn't equal effort, does it?
yeah. So yeah, Miguel came back to Barcelona, what should have been Valencia, obviously. He came back. But to be honest, I think we thought we were going to FP1 and he had a pretty nasty break on his wrist.
Yeah.
We just thought I was going to FP1 and call it a day sort of thing, but fair play to him. He rode all weekend. I don't know, where did he finish? I can't remember where he finished, to be honest. But yeah, and it was a good finish on a bit of a high, really. It was good to have him back for that last race, and then obviously he's moved on to Pramac Yamaha now.
Because by that time you knew he was leaving. I think by sort of Silverstone time, you kind of had the inclination he was moving on, and Ayagura was stepping up because there was lots of talk of whether it was going to be Joe Roberts, American team, American rider. But then I got the nod as the rider coming in to Trackhouse GP for this year. So there's been a lot going on this year. As you say, especially with the change from the end of 23 to the start of 24.
But yeah, with Agura, I think what attracted him, he nearly won the championship on a Calyx with Dunlop when he was at Idemitsu. They changed to Boscoscura, is it? Yeah, Boscoscura with Pirellis. He adapts well. So I think that's what caught the eye of Davide Brivio and the American guys. Yeah, signed him up, and yeah, I think
which is quite impressive to see that now, because when you look at, I don't know how much you get a chance to look at, you're probably the least people to get to look at Moto2 and Moto3.
Yeah.
Because you've got your head in an Aprilia.
Yeah.
While they're all out on track. That's your time. But looking at like Aldeguer coming through, and which was signed like super early for Ducati.
Yeah.
But the Agura one came a little bit later. But yeah, the swap to Pirellis and the Boscoscuro chassis, it's helped him immensely.
Yeah.
And for MotoGP as a whole, that Asian market is huge.
Yeah.
And with your old mate Taka stepping away from MotoGP, who we spoke to at Silverstone, what a lovely guy. Just super westernized as well, which is good. He has that sense of humor, and he's been around youth sport.
From the brief time we spent with Eyes, it seems shy, but I think he'll come out of his shell. I think, he's had Norman Rank as his crew chief for a few years, and I don't even know Norman Rank, but
I know I know the name.
I think he'll probably taught him a thing or two. So,
but you and Stewie next year as well. Oh, so it's going to help him, isn't it? You got the experience behind it all. But I think it's fascinating because we were talking about Danny Kent with Jules Ryder a couple of weeks ago, and it was Miguel that pushed him for that Moto3 World Championship. So his pedigree's there.
Yeah,
it just hasn't had that step and the opportunity to show what he can do.
Yeah. When he came to Aprilia, Miguel, first round was we'd also been testing, first round was in Portugal, qualified on the front row, I think, got taken out by Marquez in the race, and he injured his hip. So we missed Argentina, so didn't go there. We came back for Jerez. In the race, he got caught with Fabio, turn 3, whatever it was, and dislocated his shoulder. So he was out for Le Mans. So we never got going.
There's no continuity for the season, was there? And you can't stand still in MotoGP.
No.
You've got to keep on those bikes. You've got to have that continuity of every weekend. Otherwise, you're just so far behind.
Yeah. But he was such a good lad. I really enjoyed working with Miguel. He's good in the garage with a good sense of humour. Always like on Instagram sending you the reels and bits like that. It was good.
How much does that help in terms of working with a rider and finding a connection with them? Because you see years gone by, one of the most famous example, I guess, is Valentino with Briggsy and Brent and Gaz and the rest and Jerry Burgess, they all moved en masse. Yeah. And you see it a little more these days as well, that people are taking crew with them here and there.
Probably take odd mechanic now and again. I don't think it's as big as, I don't think Rossi had a massive, if he's going to a factory, he's like, right, I want to take this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. But I think now just, in a way it's good if you're in that, but then it's bad. Like, them guys are going to a team and they're putting 4 or 5 other guys out of a job.
That's true. Yeah, no, good point. Yeah. But then the team you're leaving has to bring people in as well.
Yeah.
So in terms of relationship with a rider.
Yeah.
So I guess they're all very different and they're a unique species riders.
Like some that, come in and have a chat, come in after the session more, and while you're working at bike, they come and have a look, see what you're doing. And some are not interested. They'll just literally turn up when the bike's ready to go out on track. And, it's just how they are, isn't it? Their approach to it. And
they're an unusual bunch, and especially over the years, then the different character of riders that you've worked with. And the more we have on the show, the more you realise that they've all got their own unique ways of doing things.
Sort of like Franco Morbidelli, he'd spend so much time in the box. He'd come in and get the speaker and say, right, lads, what music do you want on? Especially if I had a crash, like he'd come in and just hang about until almost the bike was finished, and it was good. He'd get you like coffees and, it looked after you.
That's appreciation you can't buy.
I think that's just his nature. It's such a cool lad, you know what I mean? He was so laid back. It was amazing.
I know we've spoken before when we sort of planning these and when we came to see you and Stevie Blackburn when we were over at Cadwell, and to understand, and we'll come to Frankie later on because you had some good times with him and especially 2020 and beyond. That's something I'm looking forward to listening to. But when we go back to, let's talk about this year again. The change to Trackhouse has made a massive opening in the American market. Yeah. Because you look at the NASCAR documentary with the Trackhouse NASCAR team, it is huge. Yeah. Just explain to us the size of it. You've been out to Charlotte, you've been to Trackhouse Workshop you only just made it. But you've seen the NASCAR side of things and everything there. Just how big is Trackhouse as an organisation?
Yeah, so just before Austin, and the team said, do you want to come out to Trackhouse Workshop and then have a look around and whatnot. A couple of us, our flight was delayed. Our flight was cancelled, so we ended up flying to New York. I had to spend a night in New York. And then we arrived down to Charlotte. It was a little bit late and we missed, in the morning, they did all pit stop practices and all this. We missed it, which was disappointing. But honestly, the workshop, it's massive. You can't it is as far as you can see, you know what I mean? With them boys, they have, I think it's 39 races a year constant on the shop. But then they have 7 cars each driver, but they're all in a different stage of getting prepared. So the one what's being raced will come back, he'll join the back of the queue, it'll get stripped.
Oh wow.
Then it'll get built up. Then the one the last one's being wrapped. But they have different sponsors for each event. Okay. Depending on where they're going. Yeah, some are a bit more like Daytona, Talladega, the bigger events, bigger sponsors will want to sponsor them. And so they actually change their livery per race, per driver. But yeah, the money in it is, in NASCAR, just insane, you know what I mean? And we went in this room like this, where the carbon fibre room, they're making all the splitters and whatnot, the front of the cars and all that. I was looking around and thinking, you could run a MotoGP team for about 10 years with all the cash wrapped in it, you know what I mean? It was incredible. They're all the driver sim upstairs, so we all had to go on that, doing laps around the oval. And the pit crew, they're all NBA players who's not quite made it to a level, but they're proper athletes. And so they train, there's a gym in the workshop, they train, they come back in this massive room, but they've got games like table football, table tennis and little shooting range, and just a sixth form common room, you know what I mean? It was but then each crew's got an area with massive telly, and they analyse the pit stops, they're looking for hundreds of seconds, because that's where they make it up. And massive blokes, just picking a wheel with one hand and chucking it. It was incredible to watch.
I've seen it on the documentary where they do the pit stop, and it's one bloke. They throw the wheel off to the side. They throw another wheel in it. They're not sat there with it. Yeah, he's the one that's just
like choreography it all.
It's incredible to
Jack
watch.
man just like boom, his cars up, and you know what I mean? It's just like Jesus. But yeah, maybe like a group of people in that, and the American guys have been to a few races this year. I think next year they'll get a bit more involved. Yeah, they'll come more. But when they do come, they're just amazed by it. You know what I mean? And they just love it.
It was Razlan Rosali, wasn't it?
Yeah, the RNF.
The RNF parts of it before, but now the Trackhouse has taken over. How have you felt things change in terms of like organisation and structure and things like that? Because you had sort of 4 years, I think. 4
Yeah,
years.
it's the best
Under Razlan, 5.
So Razlan and Stiggy was together Razlan and Stiggy was together before the Petronas MotoGP started.
They did
Moto 3 with
Brains and
yeah, like the SIC team.
Yes.
Then they were sponsored by Petronas. Then the Petronas team started in 2019. So it was Razlan and Stiggy together. When the Petronas thing all finished, end of 2001, Razlan formed the RNF team. The RNF were the initials of his kids. So then it was sponsored by With You. It was like a little sponsor when I was at Petronas, and it's just like this Italian guy who's an energy company. So then he sponsored us for that 22, but then all that fell apart sort of down year. But then we changed to Aprilia. So in a way, it all sort of a bit masked over. Like, so
papered over the cracks here.
So Razlan last year was with RNF Aprilia. It did change like a lot. You know, he had a lot of Malaysian staff. Well, probably did the job of like one like European. You know what I mean? He had his own people, and yeah, it was just fair enough. Yeah. But then when the Trackhouse started, there was a guy who was going to be our team principal, but he stopped just before testing. Then they got Davide Brivio on board, which has been amazing. It couldn't really change too much because he came in quite late. I think he only came in for the first race in Qatar. But even through the season, you see little things, was changing, putting his little touch on it, and you see how they ran the Suzuki team. Yeah,
exactly.
Things like
the success that he had there and Yamaha before that, you couldn't bring anybody better in really.
Yeah. So
for a fledgling, for what is essentially a fledgling team.
So basically, what we had, obviously good enough. We still had all the RNF bits, you know what I mean, and everything's getting a bit worn, a bit thing. So for next year, I think they've got new trucks, got new all new toolbox, new garage board in, all that. They're taking a bit of a step up. So even like on the social side, it gets bigger every year. More people into watching things on TikTok, Instagram, and things like that. So we've got a guy, Pat. Obviously, you've seen his work on Instagram. It's just amazing things he does. And how fast he turns something around. He'll film something, film something else, film some riders. He'll just go ahead and edit some bits, and then it's on Instagram. You think
the kid never stands still.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We'll come back to MotoGP later on. We'll go back to how it all started, because I think it's a fascinating way that a lot of people, maybe how you get into MotoGP, how it works. I mean, you could be there like 50 years, like Stevie Blackburn, but yeah, bless him. But you've got to work your way in, haven't it? And it's all about opportunity and doors closing and doors opening.
Being in the right place at the right time. And
it's always exactly that. This sport works so much on timing.
Yeah. And I always say, it's not what you know, who you know. That's a big thing.
But it is, isn't it? Because there isn't a pinboard out there with jobs at different teams. It's like, well, if you're looking for somebody, he's left this team and he'd be a great fit. Personalities are huge as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
How you fit into different teams.
Yeah, you got to fit in like the group. Like our team now, we've worked together 5-6 years. You know when someone's getting a bit aggro, or what I mean. You can you solve each other, and I know it sounds a bit corny, but you do spend so much time with them, more time than you do with your family. You're traveling together. You're up early together. You're on long flights together. You need to be a good group.
When to take the piss and when to give them the hug.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought more taking the piss than giving a hug. So
don't want to give him many hugs out. Having that, pull yourself together, man. So take me back to the beginning. The first year was 99.
Yeah.
With Castrol, Honda and Muggers. Yeah, Al Muggeridge. Where did it all start?
When I was younger, I was massively into Formula One. I wanted to be Nigel Mansell's pit crew, and growing up watching Senna and Mansell and all that, like loved the motorsport. Just loved the like British touring cars. And to be honest, I never seemed to watch. I don't think it was like accessible on TV. What was 500 Grand Prix back then?
No.
And you'd never see the 125s on telly. You never see the 250s on telly. You know, where did you watch it? There's no YouTube. I mean, there was nothing back then. There was, you know, in the early 90s.
You'd wait for motorcycle news on a Wednesday, and that's it.
And at the time, my brother, he's 5 years older than me. So I was about 12, 13. Him and his mates all had bikes, all had like 50cc's, all had 125s, and 3 of them had RGB 250s, all like identical, well, you know, the blue and white. And you just think, wow, it's amazing. I couldn't wait until I was 16, whatever, to get my bike license. But like none of my mates was into bikes. Everyone was sort of saving up for the car, you know what I mean, and all that. And I said to him, at the time, I said to the like careers advice lady came into school. She said, well, what do you want to do when you're older? And I said, oh, I want to work in Formula One. And she's like, well, what's that? And I said, you know, like motor racing. And she says, oh, there's, you can get a YTS round at the Ford garage around the corner. And I was like, man, I don't think you understand. If I don't want to work on cars and, you know, road cars. So anyway, then, so my brother's mates, there was one of them who was pretty handy called Darren North. He started club racing in 93. So I used to like go and watch him sometimes. And in 1994, my brother and Darren both joined the Super Teams Championship, which was a support race for the BSB. My brother, they converted his road RGV 250, so you could then decide you could have Darren had a ZXR 400.
Right.
Scott Smart was in it. He had an FZR 400, and Scott Smart, he went on to win it. He won the championship that year. But Darren, it was quite handy, but just didn't have the cash and the backing and whatnot. But in 94, we had a support race at Donington Park for the 500 GP. There was a massive thunderstorm just before the start. And our paddock was in the exhibition centre. And it was where the Dunlop Bridge used to be. And the starting grid was the run into the Melbourne Loop for the support classes. So the grid was actually on. So the first turn was Melbourne Loop.
So you got a downhill start?
Yeah. Excellent. And sorry, everyone expected like Scott Smart to win it. It was Barry Sheen's nephew, and there was a massive hype behind Scott Smart that year. And Darren actually won that race. And if he won the race, because it was a support race for the British Grand Prix, he won a ride with Ron Haslam's Team Great Britain on a 250 at Pembury, which was the next round or whatever. And I think James Hayden was riding from then.
Yeah.
Then the year after, so this is 95, me and my brother were still like going along, helping him out, and I was like washing wheels, and we used to like just sleep in his Renault Traffic van all weekend, you know, and don't have a shower or out, and we used to take like a cool box with all, his mum used to pack all like bacon and all that up, proper like club style roughing it, you know what I mean? And so in 95, Darren got this ride with, there's a guy called Mick Walker, who's like an author, and his son in 94 got killed at Brands Hatch in the start line crash. So we set this team up in his name, and it was a Honda RS250. So Darren rode that in 95. I think it weren't too bad. Anyway, he came like 6th or 7th now and again. And I remember he had a big crash at Alton. Chris Walker crashed into the back of us.
Oh.
And like the bike was, I thought that was done for the season. And I remember it was like in his garage back home, like putting it together. It was like here, there and everywhere, like getting parts. And then I think the race was like the week after or something, and got him out for the week after. But yeah, back then, like, it was so competitive at 250s. You know, Jamie Robinson, Steve Sawford, Ian Newton,
Bars, Noob.
Bars, and
with Alan Carter,
Alton,
all of them.
Like Ian Newton, I remember Brains worked for them.
Yeah.
Back then, and I sort of heard of Brains, but not like, I was only young. I was 14, 15 years old, and it was probably about 28 years older than this, isn't it? But I remember,
He reckons he's the same age as me, but I don't believe it. He's been around far too long for that.
I'm not sure. I'll have to check with him. But I remember I'd like this little awning outside of his van, and I was like looking at Ian Newton's bike. It was amazing, all like polished chassis and all this. And I was looking, and Brains like looked at me, and he came up, and he got the awning, and he went zzz, and he zipped it up so I couldn't see. And I thought, you know what a twat, like, you know what I mean? But anyway, I got him back in 2003. It was a Magna Core. I was working at Ducati, superbikes, and Brains was working for Renegade. They did a wild card, I think it was.
Oh, okay. Mark Griffiths' lot.
Yeah, I think it was at the Highland Spring bike, I think it was. And Brains was like, came up to the front of our garage, and I've not really spoke to him that much since, but he came to our garage, he's looking at our bike, so I got the garage door and shut it in his face. And he's like, what are you doing? I said, remember in 1995, I said, use it for doing it. And he went, you could blame me. Yeah, I got you back. But I went on to be good mates, ended up working with him a few years later and that, so yeah, it's all good.
That's man. He's a good lad. We've got a lot of time for Brains. He's the proper stalwart of the paddock, and this is the great thing about chatting to mechanics, team staff.
Yeah,
because the stories and the connections are so much stronger. Like when we went down to see Spanner at the back end of last year, that hopefully we'll catch up with them again soon. And the people that you work with, the riders you work with, the camaraderie, and essentially the piss taking, because it's so much more open between the mechanics and whether you're tire tech, whether you're suspension, whether you're chassis, whatever. It's such a small world that we work in.
Yeah.
We're only 2 degrees of separation from pretty much anybody. Yeah. There's somebody that you can introduce that knows somebody else, and you're there already. Yeah. And it's a fascinating little world. I'm glad you got your own back on Brains. That's good. So when the opportunity came then for Castrol Honda, that was, I guess, the big break. And
yeah, basically, so my brother, he got the job. He went to like an engineering college for bikes up in Bridlington. Then they sort of cherry pick people from that thing, and he ended up working, getting a job here in Louth.
I wasn't expecting you to say Bridlington.
Yeah,
it was like Newcastle or Manchester or a city, but Bridlington's good.
Like a motorcycle engineering college, but I think it's gone now. Yeah, it's like well gone. But so he'd done that, and then he ends up getting a job for Honda Britain in Louth. So that was 96. I'd like finished school, so I went to college, just did like an engineering standard thing, you know what I mean, just to think, well, to pass time or whatever. And then after that, I got a summer job at Ericsson, you know, making mobile phones. Yeah. It was meant to be 3 months, and it was like money was that good because she did like 12-hour continental shifts, and ended up I think I was there about 18 months because it was just like he's got in a bit of a rut, and at the time Darren had stopped racing, so we weren't going to many races with him. So yeah, it's sort of been in the paddock or whatever, sort of fizzled out for a couple of years. And anyway, I was at Ericsson, and I'm thinking, I need to get out of here, you know what I mean? I need to do something here. So then I used to just write letters wrote a letter to Neil Tuxworth, because I didn't have any emails back then.
No, it's all snail mail, proper.
Wrote a proper letter. I wrote to Jack Valentine. I still got letters upstairs somewhere. I wrote to Jack Valentine for a job. And because my brother was there, it's sort of like putting a word in, and there's like, yeah, but you need experience, but then, well, you need to get in to get experience. And, you know, it's a bit of this one of them and all.
Yeah, chicken and egg. And
so then mid 98, Neil Tuxworth got back to me. He says, I'll come in for an interview. So I went over to Louth, had an interview. That was good, like talking to Neil Tuxworth and that. And then Adrian Gorse was there. And he absolutely like grilled me. And I'm sat there like that, I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, you know, he's just going on about things you never even heard of and that. And I'm thinking, oh my God. Anyway, I didn't actually get the job. They set someone on, got a HGV license. We got Ian Richards, this old boy. I set him on that year. But Neil said, look, if anything ever comes up, we'll be in touch. And that's it. That was like mid 98. Then probably December, like the phone rang at home. They had a mobile, phone rang. My mum or dad was like, oh, there's Neil Tuxworth on the phone. I'm like, really? I saw Neil, and he's like, yeah. I said, yeah, something's coming up next year. We're starting the super sport team. Jim Moody, Carl Muggeridge. Job's yours if you want it. Just come to Louth in January and we'll start. And I was like, yeah, mint. So that was it. Then I think it was January the 2nd, packed my bags, landed in workshop over like South Sheffield. Packed my bags, came over to Louth and started at Honda. But it was, my brother, Mark was there already, so it made it easier. I mean, lodged with him. Yeah, he'd already been there 3 years. So yeah, we all turned up at the workshop where Honda used to be before they moved into their big place. They were either like, it was all like a British Supersport team. They had the World Superbike team and a World Supersport team, just on these little, you wouldn't even know it was there if you didn't know. There's just little tiny units. Yeah, we turned up there, and there's like Aaron Slight and Edwards' RC45s there, and just like, oh my God, it was amazing. Like, and you think, we just went in this unit, we opened the door, and it was just like full of just boxes and boxes of stuff, all like just 4 like brand new CBRs in boxes, all packed in the crates. So literally the first day, like unboxed everything, like set the workshop out. 3 other guys turned up, a bloke called Stevie Williamson, Ian Lord, who now works with Top Rack, and BMW, Gary Dickinson, a bloke who was Carl Fogler's best man at his wedding. Oh, yeah. And he went on to work at Le Petronas team and whatnot. So then us 4 basically just started on that day. He got ready to go testing in I'm going to go in Cartagena maybe, I think first test that year. Yeah, it was good. Roger Harvey was our sort of team manager, but never really came to the workshop much. We just left to it and just cracked on.
So you go into a team, it's your first full employed job in motorcycle racing, and you get Jim Moody as part of it.
Yeah. I shit myself, to be honest. I was with like Muggeridge, and he was sounding like laid back Aussie surfer, you know what I mean? Come up with all the wavy blonde hair and that, and
Can we get him in workshop?
Nah. Yeah, Moody, he was on the other side, and God, he gave his mechanic some shit that year.
Did he?
Like, yeah, no.
We're just
passionate. He was, you know what I mean? He was just, here's how he were. And yeah, I remember a few times he had like Gary up against the wall, like, you know what I mean? Like shouting it like that. I was like, bloody hell. And then for the following year, Roger Ivor rang me up. He says, I want you to move over to Jim's side next year. And I went, you're kidding, aren't you? But yeah, it's all good, all good.
He's we keep trying to get him on the show, but he's quite happy under the radar. We've had obviously had Simo on the show.
I follow him on Strava. He's like,
me too.
He's just bloody hell. He's a machine, isn't he?
Him and Toby Shaw. You keep watching them two go. This all the time, whether he's in the States or whether he's up in Scotland. There's so many stories about Jim Moody, and I think the only way that we can get him on the show is get other people talking about him and tell the stories for him so he doesn't have to come on. But that's like a proper baptism of fire for your second year with Jim.
Yeah, but even in the 99, we did the British Supersport Championship.
Yeah.
But also went to the TT. And obviously, he knew about TT. Obviously, my brother had been there with Philip McCallan, and so like the success he had on that. But I went, but I didn't have a ride as such riding there. But all the Honda thing, it was like a big anniversary Honda. Was it 100 years maybe? Something like that. And they put, it was 98 maybe, the 100 years. It was something to do with like a big anniversary. So we went to the TT. And the race before Donington, Muggers had crashed. So we took his bike anyway and like prepped it at the TT because we weren't really doing, I was just a bit of a runner for everybody sort of thing. And was in this old building, like Honda I used to hire like this like telecom, ex-telecom building or whatever. So you had all like Birdies, Vimto bikes down one side. I think McGuinness maybe on this like third or fourth TT somewhere.
Very much so, yeah.
And Joey's RC45, Moody's RC45, a guy called Simon Beck. But fortunately he crashed in practice and passed away. But one of the first things we did, well, I remember from TT, me and Stevie Williamson, we had to go and pick his bike up from the police station because it crashed and whatnot. To put the bike in, and this like policeman came out with like this belly pan full of crash bits and that, and sort of put it in the van, and like his visor was in the belly pan. And I was like, bloody hell! I mean, that's obviously the last thing is like look for and all that, and it sort of like hit me a bit. I thought, what is this place? Yeah, but it was bizarre. I remember I took the visor, just like put it in the front of the van, so a bit more respectful. And I remember gave it to Roger Harvey, then he sort of passed it on to the family sort of thing. But yeah, it's a bit weird, place.
It's I can't imagine it from a mechanic's point of view. I've spoken to Spanner about it. I've spoken to a few of the boys about it, the brains and whatever. It's just like nothing else.
Yeah.
And to be there so early in your career, and for things like that to experience, did it make you question what you were doing?
I don't know. I just think because it was a TT. I think if it was like a normal track, it would have been different. But you sort of not expect it, a bit harsh to say it, but you know what I mean?
It happens more often.
Yeah, that's right. I think so.
It happens more often. But I suppose, in a way, it shows you that side first. You appreciate the other side of it more.
Yeah. But yes, I was there. I weren't like working for a particular rider. But then I remember this in the workshop. Simo was supposed to ride, but I think he broke his leg at Snetterton. And so there's this aggro, bald-headed youth in the corner working on this daily star bike. All weekend you'd look over to him and he'd like look at you like, oh, and thinking, God, he wants to rip your head off. You're a spanner. And like, it never like say it all week. For 2 weeks, probably even spoke. And on the last night, that Honda had this big party and he was sort of sat on his own. And I went over to him, I was like, all right, mate. And he's like, yeah. And I went, all right, so do you want a drink? I went, yeah. And I went, why do you look so aggro? And he said to me, why do you look so aggro? I went, I'm not aggro. And then he went, oh, Min. And then we've been like best mates ever since.
But he still looks aggro now.
Oh, I know he does, yeah.
This his default setting is this really cross-looking face.
So yeah, so he was there, supposed to be for Simo, but then he didn't. So then we got involved in the pit stop, I think Spanner did the rear tyre for Joey.
Yep.
And I was just like getting the tyre from the awning on the tyre warmer, bringing it to the pit lane and whatnot. But it was like, when Joey, he was supposed to signal to the commentator coming out of, I think it was Ramsey Hairpin, because he was going to do 4 laps on the tyre and not change it at the first pit stop. And then he meant to like give this signal to the commentator. Then commentator was going to say on the radio. Then we were supposed to hear it if he was going to change the tyre or not.
Yeah.
But Joey, he signaled at the wrong place. So we were ready to do the tyre.
I remember.
And he came in, he was going, tyre. And then Spanner didn't have the stand on, he was like all fumbling. And he lost the race by probably about 9 seconds to DJ. We probably lost 20 seconds in the box.
Yeah.
So that was another one Joey should have won, really.
But to be out there at that time with Joey and to be part of that team,
yeah.
That's special.
Yeah. It was, even like McGuinness and I can't remember who else riding Birdie's bikes, but yeah, it was all all nice set up in the thing, and it was a bit different though. Like you did the morning practice,
yeah.
Then from like people was like based around the paddock, around the island, and you just go for the practice sessions, go up in the van, you take all your stuff, then take it back to your workshop. But I think now it's more like paddock based, isn't it? All
Very
mornings and stuff.
Yeah, very much so.
So it was a lot different back then. But yeah, it was what it was. You know what I mean? It was.
What's your favourite memory from time at the TT?
Probably when Jim took us around in a car and did a lap of the TT. And he was commentating on every bump, like, oh, that sign goes there, that tree there, and I can't remember, I don't know the corners whatever, but there's a corner where you're going up like a right-hander, and there's like a grate. And he said if you're on the inside of the grate, so like the grate to the curb, if you're on the inside of that, you can like hold it flat. But if you like just get the bump on the grate, you just have to roll it a bit. And you're thinking, bloody hell, you know what I mean? It was incredible.
I've experienced something like that on the MJK chat nights with John and Dean.
Yeah.
And they talk through a lap.
Yeah.
But they can't talk through it quick enough for what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And the same with Milky when he does his lap narrations. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
And it's not until you drive around the circuit that you appreciate, you go, ooh.
Yeah.
That's close.
I'd like to go back and have a watch, might try and get, but it clashes too much with the GP thing now. So
when you've got 20, 21 rounds to get through and
last
them up to the TT, love. No, not.
Last thing Nicky might say, I'm just off for a few days at TT.
No, especially as the girls are getting older as well. And no, it's difficult, isn't it? You miss enough in terms of birthdays, anniversaries and things like that while you're away. So I have such a love and a respect for the TT, but a massive fear at the same time.
Yeah.
We were there this summer and we spent the 3 days there. And you always have that little sense of relief when the session's done and everything's all right. Everybody's back, and then we're on the boat and all the teams are coming back. And everybody, as they did this year, thankfully came back safe. And it was a great 2 weeks, but it fascinates me. Did you ever do the Northwest?
Yeah, the Northwest.
Did the Northwest as well?
99, 2000, and 2009 when I worked at Sean Muir's team. But yeah, but also the TT, remember the TT 99, we had a bit of a money spinner, after Mad Sunday. I don't think there's that anymore, does it?
No.
We've got like Simo's van. Simo had his leg in the cast. So it was me, Jim, I think maybe Mark Anna, and like we were going around the island, so all the people who's crashed the road bikes, was like down like verges and like we're getting a strap on them, like pulling him up, we're chucking it back at the van, taking them to the port and like getting 50 quid each like bit of beer money for us. It's
To Pratt.
yeah. And like me, it was a Moody's idea that. So, oh, come on lads, let's go make a bit of extra money. We'll just literally pulling like crash bikes out at the edges and that.
There's plenty of them, especially on Mad Sunday there was.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mark Hanna there, just for the ladies and gentlemen watching and listening. Well, I spoke to Mark yesterday and we're going to be having a chat with him in the new year as well. So there's so many stories. This is something that I'm really looking forward to doing, is having the series of chats with the guys behind the scenes.
Yeah.
With yourself, with Pup, with Mark, with Stewie Smith, but most of them are based in Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
I know your kids are down Peterborough way, but he was out here.
Yeah, it's
a hotbed of Johnny Eyre as well.
yeah, even Lincolnshire, but like Louth as a town. Obviously, got a Honda Racing workshop, which many of us have been through from Castrol Honda days
Yes.
through to what it is now. But just by coincidence, got Simon Bulkmaster's PTR Triumph team. Peter Hickman lives here. He's got his team based here. He's got his own team, like on the industrial estate. It's like me, Steve Blackburn literally lives like 10 doors past those.
Yeah.
Craig Burton, who works for Binder, he lives in town. Ian Lord, I mentioned before. Adrian Gorst, who works for Top Rack. It's just...
Whose son has...
Yeah, Jack
is now... He's
control.
He's gone to race control.
I saw that. I was like, wow.
So is as son of Adrian Gorse, who famously worked with Castrol Honda, and he's done so much over the years, with Colin Edwards and many, many more. His son went to Dorna and did the usual youngster route who wants to get into MotoGP, moving to Barcelona. Yeah. Some enjoy it, some don't. But Jack's done a bit, he's done some commentary for CEV.
Yeah.
Then he's done the technical bits.
Yeah, the little videos, but
have been brilliant.
I remember Jack when he was, well, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. Like, he used to come in the workshop up at Hondo, his little radio control cars, make ramps out the truck ramps and that. And yeah, anyway.
And now he's moving into race control, which is absolutely incredible for a career for him. He's awesome. He's a good lad. I like Jack. But again, it shows just how small our world is.
Yeah.
In that sense. I mean, the Northwest's a different prospect, isn't it, with the mass start and a kind of a different mindset.
Yeah.
Was in a bit more of a party atmosphere, I find, with the Northwest.
Yeah.
The Port Stewart, Port Rush up on the top there.
Yeah, and I liked the Northwest. I enjoyed it there. Like, it was, like say a bit more partying, and I don't know what the format they do now with the practice session and stuff, but Wednesday night was like a famous night in like Kelly's nightclub, and the first time I went would have been in '99. So I was with a guy called Stevie Williamson, who was Irish. So he was like, "Yeah, come with me, stick with me, I'll show you the ropes and all that." And I was like, "Yeah, big night."
When you did those early years, and at such coming in at a young age as well, what effect did it have on you? But to be part of this world that you're in, and all of a sudden you're with Simo, you're with Jim Moody, like massive names at the time, and Joey. Did you have a chance to take it all in, or was it just pushing all the time?
Yeah, so when I moved here, obviously it was easy because my brother lived here already.
Yeah.
So I lodged with him. But like all the social side of like the Castrol thing was massive. It was like, it's like half the town almost. You know what I mean? Like an old mining, you feel like it. Yeah, definitely like an old mining community, if you know what I mean. So we all like socialised together. We was all members up at the health club, and so we just go to the gym. Well, just sit in the pool after work. Have a beer.
Check the vending machines out.
We'd literally go out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, Sunday night. We'd have 2 days off. But it's hanging around with like Nick Goodison, Witsy, Chris Pike, Stubby, like my brother, Bertie. But just go out. You could not like arrange to go out. You could just go out and you'd see somebody from work. The social side, a massive. Always do a quiz like on a Wednesday night. Win some beer tokens, and then we use them on Saturday when it's more expensive. But the bloke in the pub, he got a bit wise to that. So yeah, it was a good. But yeah, most people were single back then. No one had kids really. Yeah, it was the social side of it was great. And remember, like some of the Honda events we did, like Collins, Edwards, Aaron Slight would come to Louth, And they would go out just back in the pubs. I remember once we ended up in Craig Burton's mum's kitchen. It was like Colin Edwards just sat on the worktop like, having a beer, and and Slarks just sat there. It was, it was surreal, really. It was great, good times.
But see, and it's these different times as well. I don't think it's the way that things are now. I think it's brilliant that it happened at that point.
Yeah,
because when they're not the same now.
When there's not many phones about set pictures.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. This is the thing. The stories are great that you can tell, but the stories are really great that you can't tell.
Yeah.
They're the best ones. We'll talk about them later on. We're about for a bit of load after this. I'm not sharing them with you. I'm not a chance. So after Jim Moody came, Gary Mason and Sanyo Honda. So you still remain in the Honda family. In fact, you're with the Honda family till the end of 08, I think.
Yeah. So basically, in 2000, like I said, I ended up working with Jim. Again, for the first 2 races we won in British Supersport, and I think it was second and third. So I was leading the Supersport Championship, going to the TT in 2000. And then it was Jim was supposed to ride a Fireblade, or was supplied by Russell Savory's Sanyo Honda team. Yeah. But then at the time, Joey got a SB1 factory, like he had James Sozen's chassis from BSB, what was a Vimto bike, but he got Aaron Slight's factory, superbike engine.
Ah, yeah.
It was the red Vimto, that's the one thing. But in like Jim's contract, he should have had the same machinery as Joey for the TT.
Oh, really?
So we did practice week and that, and this thing Jim was riding, it was like this Fireblade, and it was a turd, honestly. It was trick. It had all like endurance rear wheel in it.
Yeah.
But that's the only selling point of it. You could
ride out in it.
But engine, honestly, it was, I think he handled like half-full bath. You know what I mean? Jim's like, I'm not riding that. And Honda wanted him to start the race and pull in at the quarter bridges at the...
Yeah, just on Bray Hill. Yeah, bottom Bray Hill and over the humps and exactly that, and the roundabout. That's it.
And Jim's like, I'm not starting a race. If I start a race, I'm finishing a race. And so they had this big fallout, and I was going I was working with Mark Arno at the time. We was going to signal for the race, like go out to like Windy Corner or whatever to do his board. Got like halfway there, and Jim rang us up, and he said, "Oh boys, if you can get back, get back." So I'm not racing. And all the roads was closed by then, so we didn't know what the story was, and we just sat on the bank and watched the race. Anyway, we got back, and he's like, "Yeah, I've finished Honda." I don't know if he finished Honda or Honda finished him. I'm not sure. I can't remember. And that was it. Like Jim had gone, and he was left the team and whatnot. So then when we got back to British Championship, he went to V&M Yamaha. He just got an an R6, just ran it out of a van with Jack and Steve Meller, and then went on to win the championship. And then at Donington, the last race that year, we were still friends with Jim. Miriam used to like cook us tea and whatnot in his motorhome. And he after the race, he said, "Oh, come to the motorhome," and he gave us like 500 quid. Me and Mark Arno 500 quid each. He says like, was leading the championship when I moved to Yamaha. Obviously took them points, says this championship's like half yours, if you know what I mean.
Nice.
And he gave us 500 quid and thought, yeah, fair play to him.
What a lovely touch.
So when Jim had finished, John McGuinness rode our 600, but he was still riding the 250 for Birdie.
Yep.
Was alternate qualified on the front row. I think we had 2 qualifyings then. So in the first qualifying, he'd put it on the front row, crashed his 250 and broke his wrist. So he didn't ride. But it was still, his time was still enough to be on the front row. So then he was out. Then we got Steve Brogan. He rode for the last 4 or 5 races. I think Knockhill was the first round he did, and he finished third, finished on podium. And then the last round at Donington, he was doing a practice start and back finish straight, and someone hit back of him. And I think he did his split. I think he had his spleen out. So he was out. So a bit of a 3 riders in a season, 2000. It was a bit.
So that, and especially while he's still finding your feet as well, and riders are coming and going. He's like, what is going on?
But then end of that year, we had this, like Roger Harvey was still his boss. Yeah. So the guy came to be a sort of manager, and he was a bit of a dick, to be fair. I'll tell you later it was, but I don't know.
No, we don't need to know.
People will know.
The people watching, but those who need to know.
Yeah. And he didn't really like us, and he wanted to get like people, his mates in, basically.
Right.
So he got rid of me and Mark Hanna at end of season. But it weren't like, so he said, we literally went in, he said, right, I want you to get all your shit out of this workshop. So you're fired. It was really like, the cocky arse, you know what I mean? Anyway, so that was it. That was end of 2000. So like say 2001, well, for 2001, sorry. So Whitsey, who worked at Castrol with Slight and that, he went to 10 car to Honda, and James Ellison did the European Superstock.
Yes.
And then for 2001, this team, I can't remember who was the sponsor was going to be, but they're trying to set this team up for James Ellison. And like Whitsey's like, oh, do you want to come and do the European Superstock with us? So I was spending a lot of time over, he lived in Lichfield. So I went over, like, spent a lot of time with him, was trying to like set this team up. And it just didn't get off the ground, you know, and just, it was going nowhere. And I thought, I need to find something here. And literally I saw an advert in MCN from Russell Savory's team. And so I rang him up and he's like, yeah, you know, looking for, it's going to be Gary Mason and Glenn Richards, doing Supersport and Superstock. He said, oh, you like live up north, don't you? I said, well, can you go and see Mick Grant? Because he was his partner sort of thing. So I went to Mick Grant's house in Huddersfield. I had a brew and chat, and he's like, yeah, no problem, you got the job. He said, we're going to see Russell. It's the motorcycle show used to be at the Ali Pali. And see Russell down there, you know, show your face and whatnot. And I said, okay. So I drove down to London. I have to buy a bloody ticket, you know, in your own pocket. And I went that early. I was like, I remember I went to sleep in my car. I went, you mean, just make sure I was there. I walked to Ali Pali and that, went up to the stand what Russell was on. And I was like, oh, Matt, and blah, blah. He went, oh yeah, we don't need you now. And I was like, what? You what? He went, yeah, you know, we've sorted now. And I was like, yeah, but Mick said, you got a job. I said, I've come down here like, off my own back and this. And then anyway, he said, well, Mick's coming later, so take it with him. And I thought, bloody hell, you twat like, you know. So anyway, I hung about that. I saw Mick, and then they had this like massive argument with each other. And he said, "Oh, I want this guy." And then in the end, I said, "Okay, you got the job." I thought, "Oh, cheers."
It's not like backhanded conflict. Like you don't really want it now. I need a job, but
yeah. So anyway, the team was based down in Hoddesdon, just like north of London. So I moved down there, and I used to rent a room off Darren Maisie, you know, Spider.
Yeah.
So I lived with Spider for a bit.
They're the stories you can't tell.
But it was shit. Honestly, it was like Russell, he wanted you there like a Monday morning, like 8:30, Monday morning. And I was still like, obviously coming back up to Louth for the weekends.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't let you leave till like 5 o'clock on Friday. So you're driving up from London on a Friday. And like staying down in the week, you lost all like the socialness of all the lads up here, you know what I mean, who was still working at Hondo. And, you know, I never really went out with Spider. I used to work as late as I could just to do, you know.
That's a shame, because they could have been good nights out.
Yeah, I probably went to the pub with him once all the time. And I didn't really want to be there. It was, you know, you're missing a lot. You're living away from home. And I remember towards the end of the season, I was coming back up the A1 and just sat in traffic. And there was someone's like birthday or something, like on a Friday night. It won't let you leave till 5. And then you're like, you know,
It's 9 o'clock by the time you get back up here.
And then the traffic. I remember stuck in traffic. It's one of them where you're out your car, like sat on the Armco, you know, the side of the thing. I'm thinking, I need something else here. You know what I mean? Do I really be doing with like driving down here every week? That season weren't bad. Gary Mason, it was all right.
Yeah.
Had a couple of good results, especially in the Stocker, I think. I had a couple of podiums and stuff with Stocker. Yeah, it weren't bad. It was too southern. You know what I mean? It was like...
I fully understand. We love Southerners. We love everybody, Northerners, Southerners, whatever, but we like to live up here, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, it was sort of one of them, you know, you needed to keep in it. You need to keep your face in it. Yeah. Mick Grant was sound. He was mega bloke, you know what I mean? I enjoyed working with Mick, but I didn't really get on with Russell. It was hard work, like, it was hard work.
It got you a season in. It showed you a flip side to it as well, didn't it? So you've had the security to that point of Honda, of having the 3 seasons then?
Two
seasons with them, 2 with Sanyo Honda. So you had 2 good seasons to start with. You've seen the flip side of it. So then all of a sudden it gives you a bit more of a rounded idea of the sport that you're dealing with. You've pretty much experienced all the sides of it. You've done race wins, You've had difficult times and good times at the TT. You've done road racing. You're kind of getting that experience now, which can then take you forward.
Definitely, yeah. And then, so yeah, towards the end of 2001, so my brother was in World Superbikes, and GSE had started the first year in 2001. And the guy who worked at GSE was a lad called Anthony Warnock, Skip, an Australian guy. He went to college at the Bridlington College with my brother. So they just got chatting like toward the end of the season and said, "Oh, there's a guy leaving. Barry Stanley was leaving the team." He said, "Would your brother be like interested?" Sort of, knew I was working on that. So yeah, to pretty much the end of 2001, about November time, my brother said to me, I spoke to Skip, so get hold of like Colin Knight, find out there's a job going and whatnot. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I went to where GSE used to have an office at Humberside Airport in Roger Burnett's old place.
Right, yeah.
So they ran out of there. Went for this interview with Colin Knight. Obviously knew of him, knew how big GSE was, and saw him in the British paddock with a kind of orange trucks that used to be lit up, and like amazing, like team, amazing setup. And I was like, well, shitting myself, to be fair, and
I would if I was talking to Colin, to be fair.
Yeah, went to this office and basically wrote on a bit of paper, a bit of A4 paper, I put, but when can you start? How much money do you want? And I slid this bit of paper across the table. So I was like, now? I'm going to start now. And I was like, so put a bit more than what I was on at, let's say, Russell's place, and slid it back across the table. And he's like, have you got a valid passport? And I was like, yep. And he went, oh, do you fancy going to Australia next week? And I was like, yep. So then I had a test at Phillip Island. So it was probably that December, end of 2001. Yeah. So yeah, flew to Australia. We were stopped off at Singapore, just to break it up. I had like a day or two in Singapore. And I remember I was on this, top of this hotel, swimming pool, sat with a beer. There's like Neil Hodgson, Toseland, all like these guys who I've seen at GSE, like Colin Wright and that. I'm thinking, about 2 weeks ago, I was sat on the A1 on a bit of Armco thinking, this is shit. And now I'm in Singapore, with a beer and working for probably one of the best teams, what was around at the time. And so, yeah, with Colin said, a bit of a trial. So you get on at this test and then, we'll see for next season. I'm like, yeah, no probs. So I went to Phillip Island, did the test. And on the last night of the test, there used to be a pub on Phillip Island called the Isle of Wight, but it got burnt down years ago. I was in there playing darts, playing pool, all like these locals, and they got a bit aggro with us because I was winning at pool and I was beating them at darts and all that. Now I don't think it was scrapping, but we got a bit that night, honest, everyone was absolutely bent in half and was flying home the next day. And then got to the airport, and then the stop off was at Singapore, but just a connection. It was
not a layover.
And so I remember going in Singapore, I was hanging out my ass, and I was sat in the middle, as economy seats. Colin Wright was there against the window. It was me, Dave Parks, one of the mechanics. And I was coming into Singapore airport, and I was spewing up. I was filling these sick bags. I was filling these bags up. And I remember I was all sick down face. I just turned to Colin. I thought, I fucked it, you know what I mean? I just turned to Colin and went, I'm so sorry. And he just put his arm around me and went, welcome to the fucking team. He said, you've got the job. I was like, mint.
That's class. That's just how you'd want it to happen, isn't it?
Probably not, fella.
There are ways where you can put a bike together and you can do it, but it's an amazing way to ingratiate yourself into a team when you think you've dropped the ball, and they're just like, he'll be all right with us.
So yeah, that was for the 2002 season.
Yeah. With Jay, did you work on JT's side?
So it was me, Skip, on James' side, Stewie Johnson, who I think it was David Todd.
He's just moved from Taz to FHO, wasn't he, with Davey, yeah.
So he was our maybe crew chief for both. And then on the other side, there was Pete Bansovich, who works for Johnny Ray, I think, now.
Yep.
And Dave Powers. I haven't seen Dave for years. I'm not sure what he does.
Is it Padgett's? No, that's Dave Cassidy.
And then we had Ash Banks, he works for Yamaha World Superbike team still. He did tyres. And Troy, we've got a bloke called Troy Benrose. He was the coordinator. There's a lady called Mandy who did the hospitality and coordination. Obviously, Colin Wright was the boss. And then that's when we first met Roger Burnett. He was like our communications, and he did our press and whatnot.
He was looking after JT and
Yeah, I think
he looked after JT and Neil.
Yeah, I think he's there at the time.
So it worked quite nicely, and on the side as well, where RBP started.
Yeah. So yeah, going into 2002, it was mega. You know, we'd flying business class around the world. Like Frankie was our data guy at the time. Frankie Carcetti, of course. He was my roommate. But he got at the time, he was a mega lad. Frankie, so intelligent, you know what I mean. But we never had much common sense, and he was a bit always. He got the rough end of the stick about the piss taking in the team. You know what I mean? It was. Yeah, he got.
Give me an example. How many do you want?
I remember one time, this was savage, I don't think you'd get away with it now. He forgot his hair gel, and he asked Stewie Johnson, because we used to, at the time we had 2 crew buses, and we used to drive from Europe, everywhere we drove. So one would go from Coventry, where the workshop was, and one would go from Lincolnshire. So there's me, Frankie and Mandy all lived Lincoln area, Pete, Dave, and Troy came from Coventry, and we'd go turn on Monday night, we'd go down to Ashford. They had a hotel, we used to stay in the hotel and literally get the first ferry the next morning. So you'd be in France for 7 in the morning, then we'd just drive all the way to Misano, Valencia, and you'd be there by 7, 8 o'clock at night. You just do tank of fuel each, just rotate. It was great, road trip and that. So we used to drive, and Colin, Stewie and used to fly out a bit a day or so after. And Frankie had forgot his hair gel. So he asked Stewie, so he picked some hair gel up at the airport. And he's like, yeah, no problem. The Stewie took it out and he put Imac in it. So Imac is for getting hair off your fanny, in it, basically. And by coincidence, we was in this hotel. It was in Magnicor. It was in this hotel. And there's a power cut. So you can't, I'm not making this up. It sounds dead exaggerated. But there's a power cut. So I was showing room and brushing your teeth, and you had your phone. You didn't have a torch on your phone then. It just literally the light off your screen was as I'm brushing my teeth with my phone, trying to get what I like. And then I'm thinking, he's not going to see this hair gel, let alone. So he's putting this hair gel, Imac on his hair. But then he got to a point where it said to me, "Oh, is this fella a bit funny?" And I thought, I can't let him go in. I can't put bloody Imac on his hair. So I wouldn't use that, mate. And just sort of put it to one side, but. A bit savage, really.
He still has the hair gel thing that I can't talk, but
yeah, no. Another time with Frankie, he was in Misano, doing the Ducati World Week. I think that was 2002. And they just launched the MotoGP project. It was a big event.
Right. And
Tosland was singing for the first time in front of us all. So he never performed in front of us before, so he was dead nervous on that. So it was there for I think it was after we had a test, did the Ducati World Week, then stayed for the race. So I think it was about 2.5 weeks in Misano. And of course, people used to take mickey out Frankie a lot. He never really believed what you said. And I went out the back, and I came back in, and this girl had just started seeing turned up. So I said, Frankie, I said, oh, that lash scene's here. And he went, yeah, okay, yeah. And he went out, and then said Dave walked in. He went, so Frankie, I didn't know your bird was coming. And Frankie's like, what are you on about? And then Stewie Johnson, who was came in and said, Frankie, there's a lass outside called Kelly. And he's like, what? And he went outside, and this bird just turned up just to come and see him as a surprise. We didn't have nowhere to stay her, so she ended up crashing in our room. I was on the floor, gave her my bed, so Frankie could share the bed. But still with her now, married, 3 kids.
Fantastic.
Still together. Yeah, just turned up out of the blue and shit himself a bit, I think, at first, but it was...
And the great thing is they're still together.
They're still together.
That's a nice sort. What for JT to work with?
Yeah,
imagine having JT and Hodgie in their sort of early 20s.
Yeah,
when they're in a similar sort of age, really.
But I knew James because I lived in Worksop. His mum and mum sort of knew each other. They used to walk down the canal from one kid from Kiverton, one kid from Worksop, and there was a little cafe in the middle. And in '95, that Mick Walker team I was talking to you about.
Yeah.
He ran a super team thing on Kajiva, and that's when he first started. And then when I was at Darren, we knew Mick Corrigan, and that's where, so I sort of knew him from when he was like 14, 15 already. And then obviously when he was at Castrol under 99, he rode a Supercourse.
He did, Bob. Oh, yeah, of course. Michael Paquet. Yeah, of course.
And that's where the same weekend he crashed and broke both his ankles. It was a disaster that weekend. So I've known him a good 7 years before, I started working with him. Yeah, it was great. It was just like a normal, it was a lad, like us. And yeah, but he wasn't really, he was into his music. I knew he plays the piano, but it was a bit reserved with it. You know what I mean? It wasn't until that year he was in a band called Crash, I think it was called.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And then around that time, that's when they started performing more and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, great. Yeah, it's a good lad. Still in touch with him now. Still see him about and still speak to him. It's good lad.
Good times. And Neil I live kind of 5 minutes up from where his dad is.
Yeah.
Over in East Lancashire. And I speak to Neil quite a bit. And he's just, and JT as well. They're just good lads. And they were finding their feet as well, weren't they? Yep. Neil was coming up and back of a British Championship at that point, wasn't he? And JT making his way through.
Yeah, but that year, like 2002, obviously it was Bayliss and Edwards.
Yeah.
Fight, and you had Corsa, Keeley, Hager, massive names.
It was peak almost. Yeah. Peak World Superbike at that point. Yeah, it was bigger for us in the UK than GPs.
Yeah, you come in, do the British rounds, like you get Shaky, the Reynolds, Payden, all them, and
proper wildcard days.
Like Brands Hatch, then August. You can't beat it. You'd open the garage door at like 7 in the morning and the grandstand was just full. And like you do the pit board and you could hear like if it was Hodgson or Toes, whatever, you could hear like the air horns. So you knew there was coming like from the like woodland bit of Brands.
Yeah.
All the air horns are going, there was coming and it's like,
that's cool.
Like hair on back of your neck stuff, you know what I mean? It was great. Like you say, back then World Superbike was bigger than, in my opinion, it was bigger than Grand Prix.
Absolutely.
A lot more popular. But yeah, so that 2002, Hodgson, he was few results, few third. I think he won that year. Maybe a wildcard, maybe, I can't remember. Not wildcard, British round, sorry.
I think he won at Brands, didn't he? So you think he won at Brands on the GSE bike?
Then Tozen, he got his first podium in Assen.
Yes.
Still was Superbike podium. And my brother at the time, he was working with Edwards. So it's the first time both of us had shared a podium, which is quite cool.
That's nice. That's nice that to be both at the bottom there, and that's cool.
So yeah, in 2002 that was a bit of a story with Hodgson. I don't know I think he's talked about this, but I apologise to him if not. But we had Australia, South Africa, Japan, but each other weekend in between. But Colin says it was cheaper for us all to stay out. So I went from Australia, so I went to South Africa. I stayed in South Africa for 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
And it was dirt cheap. It was like pence to, we're going out having like massive steaks and lamb shanks, and it was like £1, you know what I mean? It was ridiculous with the exchange rate and stuff. And one time we went to Sun City. It's like the artificial, the sea in the middle of a desert and all that. So we went there for like a couple of days and then went on safari. Not a proper like camped outside in the bush with fire and all in tents and whatnot. And it was great. Took a load of beers and I had a load of beers and that. And there was campfire, and I can't remember who started it, but saying, starting to walk across the hot coals. And I think Pete, the mechanic, did it first, walked across it like no problem. I think it's because he was absolutely like pissed up. Then Neil did it, walked to his hotel, fucking burnt his feet like you won't believe. But he obviously didn't tell anybody, so he couldn't tell anybody. Yeah, I think he was a bit embarrassed by it. He was supposed to go on safari the next day, like he didn't come. He just stayed and had his feet all bandaged up and that. But honestly, I had like, blisters like that on his feet. So we went on safari, saw all the big 5 animals and like mega experience. Went to Suga the week after. So you got all the Japanese wildcards coming in.
Tamada, people like
Tamada. Yeah. Well, Hard was there already, I guess.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
And things like that. Onto Neil's feet, like literally took his boot off after the session, and you could just like pour all the blood out and all that. But he didn't tell anybody. Obviously, people in the team knew. Like Colin's like, don't don't tell anybody, and we didn't probably haven't told anyone until today, to be honest. Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. But Colin Wright, it was amazing team manager, absolutely spot on. Like, you know, you knew where you were with him.
Never heard a bad word said against him. Yeah. Where you go more recently, before he left the paddock, you like Chrissy Rouse rode for him, and when he was working with Martin Halsall and going back all the way through. It's so good to have someone where we know where you stand with.
Yeah. Always like had a meeting, had a fucking meeting, call everybody in, everyone. Yeah, I mean, everyone was on the same page, and yeah, it was good.
I know Frankie speaks highly of him and gave him his chance, didn't he, when he first started?
Yeah, he gave Mike Lincoln chance in World Superbike.
And you at World Superbike, yeah.
Yeah, he was. But I stayed in touch with him a bit, like, probably like 13 or 14, he was working for GSE in the fall, actually, the groundworks thing.
Yes.
And I went to his house, like parked his car there for a couple of weeks while I went away and stuff like that. So still kept in touch with him. But yeah, I know what he's doing now, but I don't think he wants people to know what he's doing. I'll tell you later, it was random.
Please do, because I've been, the numbers that we'll talk about that later, but I'd love to have him on the show.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you in a bit.
Ways and means. We'll look at, okay, that will go. So at the end of the time with Toes, you finished third in the championship overall, which is a great result in 2003.
His first World Superbike win.
Yeah.
And Oschersleben. That was good. Should have won them both, to be fair, but Olivier punted him off the first turn, and he came back to finish third. But back then, like, Neil had moved to the factory team.
He was in the field,
on the field, in 999 as well, on the Michelin. So we were still on Dunlop.
Yes.
But yeah, it was good. My first win in that, it was spot on.
It's just ticking boxes, isn't it, as you go?
Yeah.
Which is great from a mechanic's point of view.
Yeah.
And being in and feeling, at that point, you felt that this is me now. This is my profession. I'm going to be doing this for as long as people want me.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel I'm here now.
Yeah. You know, you got the experience now, so you could go to another team, and you know, you got a bit behind you then to.
Yeah, World Superbike race wins, TT experience, Northwest experience, short circuit wins at British level. It's all coming nice.
That stability, but then the end of 2003, GSE stopped. Basically, it was because the single tyre rule came in for Pirelli.
Yes.
And then Ducati didn't want to support a team as it was supporting GSE at the time. So basically, GSE took a year out, went back to the same office where I had my interview with, slid the paper across, and yeah, it was gutted. Like, Colin had like tears in his eyes, you know what I mean? He was gutted. He said, look, I want to try and keep the team together. Yeah. And he sort of said that he offered me some money to take a year out, but not to work for another team. But it weren't like a full wage. I mean, I thought,
no, you still have to find something to top it up.
And there's no guarantee that it's going to come back. You know what I mean? If you take a year out, you're like, you know, you don't want to like screw yourself. So literally, I drove from Humberside Airport, rang Harvey Beltram up at Honda, said, Lloyd, is any jobs going? And he's like, yeah, pop in. So literally drove from the office to Honda office. I went in, and at the time they were setting up the Red Bull Rookies team with Jonathan Ray, Eugene Laverty. So I went in, sat down with him. It's like, yeah, this, and this. You know, said, yeah, no problem. We'll start in January. So I went back home, and then he rang me up either later that afternoon or the next morning. He went, a bit of a change of plan, so you couldn't come and see us, could you? And I was like, you know what I mean, it's all sort of gone to shit.
Here we go again.
Anyway, went to the office, and it says, there's a superbike team being set up, full like HRC biked. There's going to be Michael Rutter and this Japanese kid called Kianari. He said, would you want to stay on the Red Bull side, or do you want to be involved with this? Taddy Okada was going to be the manager. And I was like, yeah, but I'll be on the superbike side. And he's like, yep, sound. Said, we're going testing, I think it was back end of 03, so there's a test in Almeria. Well, get in touch, either you or, it set Chris Anderson on at the time. So either you or Chris will go. With like Adrian, Les Pearson was going to be Rutter's crew chief. I was like, yeah, sound, no probs. Anyway, if Chris couldn't do the test for some reason, so they sent me and our engine builder, a guy called Desmo Dave Allenby. Anyway, they rang me up, so like, you do this test. And at the time, I was living in Lincoln in a pub, and we'd organised like a end of season sort of party for like GSE, like in this pub. All the Honda lads would come in, and like Chris Walker came, Tozen was there, and all this. So I said to her, I said, yeah, I'll do it. So, but is it all right if I set off a little bit later, just, and I'll drop me in. I rang this day up, said, do you mind driving to Almeria non-stop? And he's like, yeah, no problem. Like, so I had this party, like literally set off on a Saturday morning, drove non-stop to Almeria, like just tank of fuel each, sleeping, and all that. Got to Almeria, and you've been before, and it's like in the arse.
I've not been to Almeria now, but I've been to
It's been like the arsehole of nowhere, like all desert. So he's filmed the westerns and stuff there.
Oh, the spaghetti westerns, yeah.
And so at the time, this was like 03, didn't we have a good sat nav and all. He's literally had a map and thinking, where is it? And you got Adrian Gorse ringing you, where are you? Yeah, we're on the way, we're trying to find it. Anyway, pulled into the paddock, and there's like Adrian, there's Tuxworth, there's Les, there's like 3 or 4 Japanese engineers, there's Taddy Okada, there's Kianaru, all that stood there like that, like with arms folded. I felt, okay, we're a little bit late, but I think they expected like the truck to be there, like an internet connection to like, it was a full like HRC project. And we turned up in this like Sprinter van. And I drove in, I was like, oh my God, get out. And we were both absolutely knackered, like, driven away, got the bike out. I had the forks out, the shock out, the Olin's guy, the shower guy was there. It worked like 2 or 3 in the morning, just gets we had one bike to get it ready to test. The next day, and he crashed it. He did a handful of laps and crashed it. Didn't have like limited spares. Then like Keo rode it for like the afternoon. I think there's like one did the morning, one did the afternoon. Keo rode it. The thing was like amazing. It was like a prototype. Like all the quick release, all the endurance, rear wheels, everything. It was like such a trick bike for BSB. Yeah, it was amazing. So then going into 2004 season, so all this like fully backed HRC team, 3 or 4 engineers used to come with us each week. This new like Japanese rider, I think Silverstone was the first race.
Yeah.
That year. I think Rutter won one. Keo was second in both. I thought, I know it's going to be decent, but then we thought, Silverstone's quite wide track in it, quite a GP track. Then I was going to like Alton, Ferguson and all that, with like, Keo just weren't keen. It was like,
as most of the overseas riders are when they come to BSB, they just go, oh.
Yeah, he was, not keen at all. Then he did the 8 hour that year. I think he won it first time. I remember we said to him, he's go back to Japan. When he come back from Japan, he got like a new chip in him. I mean, a bit like...
Do you know what? It's funny you say that, because we had this on the show, I think not so long back, and I forget who we were chatting to. And the HM plant was always saying, when Keo was riding it, when Shaky was riding it, you get kind of halfway through the season, Keo would go home and have a Control Alt and Delete.
Yeah.
But after Suzuka, new things arrived.
Yeah. It's...
And it was like, ooh, shiny, little bits of bits. But I also seem to remember, and I don't know where I'm pulling this from, because I can always picture it, Nakamoto-san came to Silverstone, who was the boss of HRC at that point. Then you suddenly realise, I remember him out the back of the garage with a fag. Yeah, exactly. And he's like, this is serious. Yeah. This is a big operation. With Michael and with Keo and the team that they'd put together.
Yeah, it was like, it was on the team on Michelin. Yeah, literally, how the truck's parked. Our truck was, the Michelin truck was next to our truck, and all the tyres had to be like locked away at night time. Or like, you just had the Michelin engineer just for us. Like some racers would do the Friday practice, and then a new tyre would get made in France, and they'd bring it over for us to race. Like, depending on left or right, or they used to make tyres for us overnight.
At BSB
level, yeah.
Because there was always talk of that for MotoGP, wasn't there? That Rossi would get an overnight tyre or there'd be something. But to actually hear it happening in BSB in those days.
And like the wets back then, all through the Michelin, the wets was like unbelievable. You'd have like a mat on the floor, you'd wheel the bike out and the mat would come with you. It was that sticky. It was like unreal. I think Johnny, in 07, Johnny and Keo like lapped everybody at Knockhill. And, and some, and it was incredible. I remember being at, one got stolen, Michelin tyre got stolen out of the truck. I think it was at Mondello. And it was like massive, what I mean? And I'm not quite sure who stole it, but let's just say the other manufacturer was in the championship at the time, their wets was amazing if it lay under the year.
I don't want to say anything, but it was big. Somebody made a really big step after that.
It was a big shit. Like, even now in our in everyone's contract in MotoGP, if one tyre goes missing, the team get fined €1 million. It's in everyone's team's contract, yeah. Because of that, like, obviously in MotoGP, obviously everyone's on the same tyre, but it's, it's just a thing they're like to keep it.
Wow. I mean, so you had so much success with Kia.
Yeah. I'd that to 04, once he come back from once he'd been rechipped, he came back, won at Donington, because back on like a normal circuit, won the last 2 races at Donington by a country mile. It was, and that year, I think he was 21 that year. I remember I went to Taddy's like, I need to get Kia something for his birthday. I said, what do you reckon? So just me and Taddy went to Grimsby, went to the shopping centre in Grimsby, and his Taddy's like, I want to get him a blow-up doll. I was like, all right. So it was me and bloody Taddy Accardo, like Grand Prix winner, in Ann Summers, buying a blow-up doll. And like, one behind the car, I was looking and thinking, this is a bit weird, like, and honestly, it was a bit a surreal thing, like. But yeah, all the Japs, they was there for all year. Kia used to stay, there's a pub just out of town called The Splash. I used to rent a room there, while all the Japs stayed. Literally all in like this Italian restaurant every night. It was good. They were all sort of together. And then we used to go out. Like Kia was a bit of a lad around town, probably known for his drinking and that. And you'd go out, you'd not buy a drink all night. It's like proper like local hero, you know what I mean? It was.
That's a cool thing. I don't think people realise that at the time. Just how much faith Honda put in him, and how much of a bit of a boy he was.
But even like Taddy and that, I said like he used to. If we go somewhere, it's like, right, you can sit with them and learn English and, learn from us and that, and, picked it up in like no problem.
All the good words.
Then even like, when was it Honda, say you like worked a race weekend, we used to say, we'll have like the next Friday off. As a thing. So do all the jobs on a Thursday, sweep the floor, empty all the oil, like make sure the bins are empty, and Adrian goes to walk around looking, everything done. I said, all right, lads, you can have tomorrow off. So I put my head in the engine room, said to Paul, Lincoln, but yes, he's like student night at Lincoln. I put my head in the Kia, like a little office. So Lincoln Kia was like, yeah. So I used to go out to Lincoln on a Thursday night.
Student night.
It was amazing. Like, I remember them well. But Kia had a bit of a party trick where, when the Terminator comes to Earth and he got no clothes on and he's like curled up in a ball like that. That was his party trick. I remember he was in a pub in town on the pool table on Saturday night, start bollock naked. But everyone was like, but it's like he was just doing his Terminator. Yeah, it was
what? I can't even. It's just that. What's going on? Oh, it's just Kia doing his Terminator.
Cool. Like, honestly, we used to go out.
Brilliant.
We'd be out on the weekend before the race. He'd keep at my house on the floor or whatever. I lived in town. It was like 2 minutes walk from the pubs. Wake up, Kia would be on the settee or whatever. Then he'd wake up a bit rough. Do like a 10k run, get sweat it all out, and then he'd be brand new. Then he'd go win the next weekend. And it was, amazing, really. Good lad.
Those times, I think, were incredible. And for the championships that you won, for the races that you won, it was that kind of, I'm a big fan of the listeners and the viewers now. I'm a big fan of planets aligning. And that time, there was an awful lot of planets aligning there in terms for your career as well.
But even in 2006, I think 2005, we won more races that year, but Levere won the championship. But he came in late. I think was it James Hayden was supposed to ride and he was injured.
Crashed at Catalonia and broke his wrist.
Right. So Levere came in. So then, the GSE came back. So then Colin Wright was our like main rivals.
Yeah.
And to be fair, when the year he did come back, he rang me up and said, look, the team's starting again. Do you want to come back? And I was like, as much as I'd love to, I'd been 100 a year. I didn't want to then go back. You sort of settled again. You was back home.
Yeah, everything was there, wasn't it?
Everything was there. So Kia won probably, I think he won 11, maybe 12 races that year, but didn't win the championship. Then 2006 started strong, won the first 4 races. Was at Mallory, was like leading by the whole back straight. Literally went a bit wide. It had been raining all that weekend. I think that might have been the weekend when Ollie Bridewell passed away, I think it was. And the Saturday got cancelled. And this was really, really bad rain. So all the, like, it was really soggy and muddy and all that. And when that chicane on the back straight, he just ran a bit wide, hit the white line, and he was down. And he got concussed. And the week after was Alton. So he missed both O'Malley races, both Alton races.
7-day,
So
7-day rule, wasn't it?
So
The concussion.
So then, going like in back end of 2006, he didn't really think he was going to win the championship. He just, just started plodding along and got to Brands. And GSE had sponsored by Airwaves, and they kept changing the colours. And for the last round, they put like a black.
That's right, they did.
And it was Silverstone before that, and both, I think Haslam and Olivier both crashed out at Silverstone. And so then going into Brands, they it was like 50 points for a win because Mondello had got cancelled.
Yes.
So going into Brands, 50 points for a win. Kia won the first one, almost won the title, finished second, Haslam in the second one. Olivier crashed out both races.
Yeah, so it was 100 point livery.
Yeah, so I went to Colin and I went, oh, it's curse of the special livery,
It never works.
No. So then we got like, didn't have any t-shirts or there's nothing to expect to win. You didn't expect to win, but then I remember on the podium, someone gave Keo a Japanese football shirt, and he was just like, I don't like football. It was a bit miffed because he had this Japanese football shirt on, but we didn't literally have any. No.
Because normally, even if there's a mathematical chance, teams will bring a box of t-shirts.
We didn't.
After that, it's rags to clean the car, if not.
Just weren't prepared. I don't think we even had a party that night. Honestly, I think we just went home. It was weird. Cause we didn't, because we had a test. We had a Michelin test. So so we had to get out of there.
So not even a chance to celebrate?
No.
See, that's...
Yeah, it was...
But then continuing on with that, to then back-to-back it the following year as champions.
But even then, we started off not that strong. I think Johnny then moved up from the Red Bull team.
Yes.
To be on the HM plant team. I think he had a couple of podiums maybe. I didn't think we had a podium for the first 2 or 3 rounds. And that year we had a lot of engine trouble.
Right.
Like, and didn't really know what it was. If it was like the crank, the cam, or everything, top and bottom end, it was like
electrical fault.
Yeah. And then I remember being at Cadwell in practice, and we had 2 bikes then, and both bikes had stopped on track at Cadwell. So it was like in the practice session when no bike was sat in the garage and no bikes. So that night at Cadwell, went back to Louth, got the engine out. I was working for Steve Blackburn at the time. He stripped the engine, built this engine like fast, you know what I mean? It's probably not as much measuring the care as what you do a normal thing. Built the engine, put it in the chassis, put it on the dyno, went back to Cadwell, and I think finished second in the race. So literally built a bike in night time in the workshop. It was like, and then that engine, we thought, well, don't touch it, and that engine, we'd use it for the rest of the season.
Never.
Yeah, because we didn't know what the
problem was, so that worked, so use that one.
And then we had this, called it Table of Doom. The ladies like the wallpaper tables out, and these Japanese were coming over to see what's going on. And we had like crank. It's like, like Scooby-Doo's buffet. I mean, like Volvo session. It was like, it's like crank, cam, like, as far as you could see, it was like, and they couldn't work out where it was. And then I think the cleaning fluid was like contaminated with something, and that's what was causing some wear and all that. And I mean, honestly, it was all year, and like, God knows how we won the championship.
Incredible. But you were ready for that one.
But luckily, every engine failure I had weren't in a race. It was all in practice, qualifying, and
which is when you wanted to happen.
Yeah. So he went on and, well, to be fair, we should have won it at Donington, and Crutchlow took us out at Goddard's at last turn.
Oh, he did.
And then the Crutchlow had just signed for us.
Yeah.
We knew he was going to be working with him. And anyway, the Kiwi broke his foot. We never told anybody. So then I gave him a lift back from the circuit on that night after Donington. We should have won the championship. It was still, he needed like 2 points, whatever, going into Brands. And then on the way back, we stopped at Lincoln. Said, let's go out on the piss. And they had like to be hobbling around and his broken foot. And I don't think he told like Harvey and that Honda. He didn't want anyone to know because he was worried like, they might not let me race.
Yeah.
And I might not win the championship. So he just like put a bigger boot on and just like cracked on and got on with it.
Incredible. Callum Rizzler Suzuki.
Yes.
It was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Because then that was prior to the time. So you had Carl, Johnny, Eugene was there.
Cameo.
Leon Camia, Top Sykes.
Yeah, massive.
And then the end of 09, end of 08, they all went poof.
Yeah.
Off they went. into World Superbike and beyond.
So yeah, so we got Carl for 2008.
Yeah.
And Haslam, he came to Honda. With Carl, I think he was at Brands. That's the year it snowed. So Brands actually got called off.
Yes, did.
So the first round was Thruxton. And that's when he won his first BSB race.
It's amazing when you look back, and it's to be part. It's not only your race wins, but to be part of a rider's first BSB win or first World Superbike win.
Yeah.
And working off the back of that, that's why you kind of do what you do.
Yeah. You don't really think about it till later or after, you know what I mean?
That's the weird thing. That's a good thing about doing this, isn't it? You sort of looking back going like,
we've
done some cool shit.
You didn't like start the season, you think, right, we're going to win the championship year. You just, you chip away, and then, like I say, in 2006, you just didn't expect to win it. It's 2007, you're probably a bit more think, I'm going to win this.
Yeah.
I've got some t-shirts ready for that year.
The boxes are in the truck, boys. Bring them.
So we have t-shirts like, yeah.
Just before we move on to what comes next, when you're doing BSB, you're starting off on the Honda Supersport bikes, then you move to the GSE Ducatis, and then you're on a full fat 3 sugar HRC superbike.
Yeah.
I don't understand the mechanical side of it at all. I have no mechanical knowledge at all. So forgive me if this is a really basic question. Are there massive differences? I guess between the Ducati and the Honda there would be.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, the parts kind of do the same thing, but they go together a different way.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's my basic understanding.
Fair, like back then, the bike's much more simpler. I mean, it's not much, like the wiring loom was like nothing. Handlebars, you had like an on and off switch. Compared to now, it's incredible.
It is nuts on the day, isn't it?
But yeah, like the Ducati was probably one of the easiest bikes you could work on. Literally, when you took the tank off was like the airbox top. Yeah, they didn't have another. The airbox, pull the airbox off, throttle body's off. There's 2 bolts for the engine, and it was out.
That was it. That was 998.
998. Yeah. I mean, back then it was no. I think in Europe we used to carry 10 spare engines, something like that, just for riders.
Okay.
Yeah, you just change them. So yeah, you change the engine between sessions. You do the practice, put qualifying engine in, take that out, put a race engine in. Just rotating them.
You got to rotate for mileage, I think, and things like that.
I think they did. I think like about 500k. There was a limit though back then. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Well, I don't know now in superbikes. I know they have limited engines. I'm not sure. World Superbikes, haven't they?
They might have done.
I know now in GP you've got 6 of the year.
Yes.
So yeah, just to change them like just I've put another in.
It's a fascinating thing, is it? This is the great thing about chatting to you and having the stories. I can't talk technical.
Yeah.
And also there are things that you can talk about and things you can't talk about, because you get to see exactly what's going on to bikes and where and how, especially in the time at HRC, when it was HM Plant, because it was, everything was coming through the factory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Through Louth.
Me and Spanner went to Japan to the HRC factory to build the bikes, which was pretty special, and that was in, when was that, in 04, but all like Doohan's bikes were there, an SR500s, Ross's bike, and was sat in the corner of the workshop, and you think, oh, this is mint, what I mean? It was incredible, really good. Really, that's when I look back, like, think what teams and stuff you work for me, like going to HRC in Japan, going to Yamaha factory in Iwata, I think it is.
Yep.
I've been to Nilali, to the Aprilia factory, I've been to Bologna, to the Ducati factory, but to be in the race department where it all starts, it's like one of the highlights, I think, for me.
So take me to that point, and when you walk into HRC to build the bike, and this is top level. This is where, all like you say, this is where HRC build their race bikes.
Yeah, you'd say when you go in, you expect it to be like a hospital thing, but I was a bit surprised how, like the benches were all like battered, all the racking was all battered. It weren't like what you expected. It was
absolutely not what I expected.
It was, it was just it's just like a workshop. You know what I mean? It was clean, obviously. You know.
Yeah. But you expect it to look like you see, like your Lego Technic behind, like the Mercedes. There's not a speck of dust anywhere. When you see it on the TV, everything's pristine.
I think now where I have been for 2016, last time I went to HRC, but I think now it might be a bit different. But like, back then it was, they're all like red benches where you bump up and all that. But literally you get there and everything, all in these strip trays, everything's in a packet. And the stuff what you do there, what you probably not have to build again in the season. You're just like pressing like bearings into clutch levers, into like gear levers, brake levers, pressing them all together. And you build, you build a lot for the year sort of thing there on like pressing everything in. And like getting every bolt out of a packet, literally every nut and bolt was in a packet with a part code on it. And that's probably took you longest to get everything ready than actually build a bike up.
To get all the parts ready, to put them together, to build your sub-assemblies. Yeah. So you build all as well as building the bike, you build the sub-assemblies as well or was that done back here?
Pretty much then,
as you go along.
Spares like package for a year to start off with. So you probably do it a bit later once, you got everything. Pretty much when you've been there, you just literally build the bikes to be able to roll them out the workshop. But Yamaha was probably a bit more clinical. That was more like a hospital surgery, all white, and corridors. And
in your mind, that's what you expect it to be like.
Yeah, I guess HRC is like that now. You know what I mean? But Yamaha was really like you'd expect it.
That's super. So that is the super clinical side to it. So at the end of 2008, you stay with Honda, but with Hydrex and Sean Muir. Yeah, you have it's a slight change. In teams.
It was with myself and Steve had signed a contract for 2009 to stay at Honda. I think Josh Brooks was coming. Yeah. Then literally 2 days before Christmas, pulled us in the office, said, having a bit of a restructure and we don't need you anymore. And I was like, okay. And it's like, and they're both like, Neil and Harvey was like, couldn't look you in the eye, was like looking down like that. And they said, we need someone with HGV license. Harvey's been around and asked everybody to the truck license, and you've all said no. And I was like, no, that's not true. If it meant keeping my job here, you'd do it out your own money.
Absolutely.
And that was it. And then, 2 days before Christmas, every other team had shut down, couldn't email anybody, couldn't get in touch with anybody. A bit of a crap time, really. Sort of blamed it on, they did have a restructure, big cutbacks, blamed it on the economic crisis at the time. And Neil sat there, it's like, because Wolves are shut down, and that's why we're getting rid of you. And I was like, get your pick and mix.
So it goes with pick and mix.
Your CDs and your CBR 600 from Woolworths, you know what I mean? It was a bit like...
I think they did a good turnover in CBR, but
I was like, okay. And then...
whatever.
So then... we just... me messaged as many people could, just getting like out of office emails off people and that. And then I spoke to Mick Shanley between Christmas and New Year, saying if anything going, and because I think they'd run Hondas with Hydrex with Ellison in 2008. So we used to come to the workshop a lot and use a dyno and stuff. So, got to know him a little bit. I rang him up and they said, I'll speak to Sean, see what's what. And so we're just moving into a new building and that in a minute. We'll let you know. And then about mid-January, I said, why don't you come up and have a chat and see what's what. And then Ellison had, sorry, that was a year after. There's Carl Harris and Stuart Easton on the Hydrex bikes. So I ended up working with Carl Harris. Sean had just built this, maybe you've been up to Sean.
I've not been, no.
Amazing, state-of-the-art there. Has got there, all the trucks backed in, little dyno inside, and mega purpose-built place. And we moved in, probably the first couple of months, we're putting all the racking and sorting it all out, and that as trying to build the bikes for testing and stuff. When that year was Carl Harris, bless him, good lad, mega lad, he was. But I also knew him through where HM plant he was on 600. Shame what happened, but
But what a guy to work with.
Yeah, such a lad, like.
There's so many. We're going to sit down with Brent Gladwin next week.
Yeah.
And obviously Brent was a big part of Carl's career.
Sure, yeah.
I'm looking forward to some stories out, and then seeing Carl Jr.
Yeah.
this year taking a win and under Brogy's tutelage as well. It's great to see the name carrying on. Well, what a guy to work with.
Yeah, it was interesting that year. I think I had a couple of podiums. Alton, obviously,
Yeah.
massive. I think he was second both races at Alton. But yeah, just I don't know, it was just there or thereabouts most year. Then it got to a point where his results weren't that great, and Sean sort of had enough, and mutually parted ways. And then Tommy Hill rode for the last 4 or 5 races. I think he had a couple of podiums, I think. And Tommy Hill was sat up to it sound like after every race on the Monday, he'd do like a report of the weekend, like email it to you, all like, well, thanks lads, and
Brilliant.
you know what I mean? And I thought, well, this is decent, like. And yeah, it was me and it was a guy, my sister. Me, Kate was a mechanic. Yeah. Oh God, she was a grafter. Jesus, she was like.
I forgot she was working in the team.
She was a guy with like the TT Northwest stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
And then she was just on the spanners with us. She did an HGV license that year. She was driving truck. She was like, and then she got pregnant probably halfway through the year. And like we used to say, like, she was nearly bloody 9 months pregnant, about to pop, and we're like, right, just sit in the office, and she couldn't sit still, lugging like fuel drums about. You know what I mean? She was proper grafter, like.
So her names come up, and that was before I even got involved in. I mean, I didn't get properly involved till 2013, but still went to loads of rows, and you read things, and you kind of pick up names here and there, so you get what's going on with it all. But yeah, remember that the guy was part of the team, and his sister was as well. That's how things change. This is going fantastically. It's amazing how when you get started, and it's a little bit nervy to start with, because it's not your forte.
Yeah.
So tell me about the time with James in 2010, before, so that you step in then still in BSB with James, and then you get the switch to PTR.
Yeah.
Through then with James as
so yeah, in 2010, the team got sponsored by Swan, the cigarette papers.
Yeah.
And sort of stepped up a little bit. Sean got a bit more, not professional is a bit harsh, but a bit more, got a bit more health presence. Yeah, a bit more presence. And the team got a bit bigger. Like Pete Jennings came into the engines. Was me, Mick. Kate had left by then. Then Steve joined us, Blackburn, so teamed up with him again. So working with Ellison, and obviously Sean knew like what had happened to Honda, and he was like peaking that like we was there.
Absolutely.
Got to Brands Hatch, and James won the first race at Brands. So he literally got me and Steve, dragged us out of the garage, and the HM Plan Boys were next door, and they gave one of them to next door. So then we had a strong start with James that year. The bike made a massive step. We got like a fly-by-wire throttle on it, and of course, you could back then. And went to Thruxton, and like James was like off like out. He was like probably second faster than anyone, but then he crashed and bloody broke his femur, and so I put him out. But that was the first year of the showdown.
Yeah.
And I think then you could drop your worst results or something like that. So yeah, I was trying to like get in the showdown, and I think he didn't miss it by much. Got to eventually finish 7th in the championship because top 6 went on.
Yes.
And he had quite a strong finish to the championship, and it was at Silverstone. It started to rain, and at the time Mick Shanley's wife, Leanne, was pregnant. Literally before the second race, rang you up, so I think I'm going into labour. So Mick's like, I'm off, boys, I'll leave you to it. And we're like, yeah, no worries. Started to absolutely bucket down with rain. So me and Steve were like, put some wets in, back the suspension off a bit. Just said to him, go out, enjoy it, and you won the race. And literally, I said to Steve before this, I said, I had a dream last night that I went up and collected the team trophy. And it's like, this is before we'd won. And he's like, oh yeah, whatever. And afterwards, I said, come on, that dream I was in a while. I was like, yeah. And I told Sean, and Sean's like, well, go up and get it then. So then James won the race. There was Brooks from HM Plant second, and Kia was third. So I'm on the podium, this trophy. I've got a picture somewhere of me and Kia talking, and we were saying, "Oh, do you want to call at Damon's in Lincoln away for dinner?" It was like stood on the podium, like, "Yeah, sound like, you know," and then arranging like, "Oh, we're doing like to get back to Louth."
Tegman's ribs.
Oh, mate,
And the teriyaki chicken. Rib and chicken combo.
but it was in Parc Ferme. I rang Mick up. I mate, we won, and he was like trying, flat out driving home. He went, "Yeah, well, whatever." I went, "All right," and put the phone down. Like Sean or whatever tried to ring him. He rang back. He went, "I can't believe wonderful he's shine." So yeah, mate, you stay over next to your races, so we're great covered. Like
We're doing all right, thanks. You just carry on doing what you do. It's and it was a fascinating time, wasn't it? In terms of, so after that was when Tommy went on to win the title in 2011, but you then moved on to different.
Yeah, to be honest, the opportunities came up with Simon Masters Super Sport team. And by then I said to Sean, I said, "Look, if your workshop was near my home," I said, "I'd stay with you, like no problem." He said, "Yeah, next year there's something." He couldn't tell me at the time. He said, "Next year, something massive coming." That's when they changed the Yamaha. He said, "Oh, I want you to stay. And I was like, I said, "If your workshop was near my home," I said, "I'm a bit done with traveling."
Hillsborough's not the easiest place to get to from here.
I'd had like 5 or 6 years back in your own bed. So having to travel to workshop and whatnot. And I just, I said, "I want to be back at home." And he's like, "Yeah, stay in touch." And yeah, still stay in touch now. Seeing Donington, I said, mega bloke he was. I really enjoyed working with Sean. So yeah, started with Simon. Like he expanded. I think he ran Eugene and Miguel prior. Yeah, the year before that. Expanded to like had 4 or 5 riders that year. So we had James went, Sam Lowe's joined the team. What's the black called? Pavel Skopek, I think it was called. Some Polish guy.
Skopek, I remember.
Matthew Schultz, the South African guy. Martin Jessup. He was the 5th rider. That's when I started working with Brains again. So Brains was our crew chief. So me and Brains with Ellison. There's like Phil Maron, Ben Fry with Sam, Stan Meakin, who we've worked with all the time. He was with, I think young Sam Neat had started on the spanners, and he was like with one. I can't remember now. But basically, it was like, 2 people for 1 rider.
Yeah.
But like you do everything. You do the tire, you do take tires from Pirelli, you do the suspension changes, you do like the fuel, you do, you know what I mean? And
That's not what you're used to.
no, it was like a low. But then if you had a crash, whatever, like I'd go and help Ben with Sam's bike, or I'd come and help us with James's bike. But in a way, you literally did everything. Did like the clutch, did everything on the bike. It was just like a one mechanic and the crew chief, and Brains didn't get his hands mucky that much. Like, he was sat there with his computer, but it was good because you literally did everything. So when if you got a result,
Sorry about that. Not a problem.
Postman Patch
Said it was going to happen.
yeah, so basically you did everything on the bike, and so when you got a result, it was just like, like you and Brains, it was good. You learned a lot, and
Well, I say that's the other thing, isn't it? It's giving you even more experience.
yeah, you just dabbled in a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It was great. With James that year, I had a couple of podiums. I think it was not too bad. Then going into 12, say with Simon, and we're supposed to have an American guy, PJ Jacobson, what I pronounce it. We did the test with him. Then for some reason he didn't carry on with the team. I'm not sure why.
Raced at Taz a bit, didn't he? Did a bit in BSB and Super Stock and Super Sport.
Yeah. So then went to Australia for the test, and Jules Cluzel joined us. So literally did the test. We had a massive crash, probably halfway through the first session. Bike was snapped in half. It was a mess. So he missed a lot of the test. Got him out for later on, then he had a couple of days off, straight into the race weekend. And at the time, that was my 30th birthday. He was on the day off in between used to test Monday, Tuesday. Let's use test Monday, Tuesday. You'd have the Wednesday off, and then the race
Straight into the race weekend, yeah.
So that week we had there's Phil Maron, Dan Wright, Ben, Paul Williamson, Stan, Graham Parker. We just had like a day, went golfing, like a thing in the morning, and like it was quite like overcast. So all there, shorts, flip-flops, playing golf, all on the beers, and went to the beach, like play football on the beach. Then that night, Simon had organised a barbecue, and I was sat there and I was looking at Phil Murray and I'm thinking, you look a bit red, mate, you know, hey. And looked at his feet, and honestly, both of us, we've got like 3rd-degree burns on his feet, like proper like sunburn. Just no one put a bit of cream on all day, like idiots, you know what I mean? So then when I went to the circuit the next day, I couldn't put my socks on. Phil was a little bit worse than me. And we knew this guy who worked at the circuit, and he was bringing us like aloe vera, the plant. Yeah. And with like a knife, was like slicing pure aloe vera off, like putting it into your socks to put your sock back on, trying to like get a bit of
Trying to get a moisture
back into
Yeah.
it. But it was a right mess. Oh, it was like written off. The good fun, like it was
nearly as bad as walking over hot coals.
Yeah. We still talk about it with Phil, like, so I remember when memory comes up on your Facebook when we burnt your feet to it. But yeah, it was not wise. Put your sun cream on.
Nice. So then I get, with Jen being a beauty therapist, it's like sun cream all the time. It's Jules is an unusual character.
Yeah, bit of
Quite intense.
yeah. From we started off, so all the team there was like Phil. I think Phil might have gone by then, to be honest. But anyway, it was like same sort of format: the crew chief and the mechanic, like the 4 riders across the garage. And there's a guy called Mark Kelly was our crew chief, and he knew PJ from before.
Okay.
But then because PJ had left, we got like Jules, and was like in Australia, and he was like a bit of aggro, little Frenchman at first, you know what I mean? Really like, and yeah, we not had that much testing. I think we finished 4th in the race, which good result, you know, but we're not doing any testing and that. And then I think for the next race, we swapped Spanner. The Spanner came to be our crew chief with Jules. And then that Mark Kelly went to be with Ronan Quarmby, who was a rider then. So me and Spanner started working together again. And it was mega. It was like absolutely spot on. And went to the next race within Monza. And Sam and Jules had like cleared off by the pack. They're just following each other like that. And I think Sam ran a bit wide, cut the chicane, and Jules, and he got his first win. And so it was
Another one.
Yeah, another first Supersport win. And then that year, I think then went Donington, Sam won. Went to, I think Jules won 4 that year. Sam won 2, I think. Was it? Won at Silverstone. And that was at Silverstone. All the PTR bikes, we locked out the front row at qualifying.
See, it's like that's special
for like a little team, just like a industrial estate in Louth. You know, I think Jules on pole, Sam, Quarmby, Schultz, all on the front row.
Superb. The clues are it's super talented rider.
Yeah, it was mega lad. It was like really all his family used to come. Like the girlfriend who was seen at the time used to come, and it was quite in the garage. He'd hang around a lot with us. It was good lad.
Nice. Good one.
I still see him now. He works for the French TV in MotoGP.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
That's nice. You still keeping in touch with the old boys as well.
But yeah, I remember one time in the 2012 season, I think it was the last round was in Portugal, Portimao, and just been out for dinner. All the team was all together. We like went out and we were like, shall we have a beer? We're like, no, can't be bothered. And then someone needed a cash machine, so we just walked a little bit further down this promenade, and then would have been Portimao, I think, or maybe Lagos, a little town next to it. We'll walk past, as we're walking back, there's like a bit of music in this bar. It's probably no bigger than your front room, this bar. They said, oh, show everyone. We're like, yeah, go on then. So we all went in, and honestly, it was like the best night you've ever had. But it was a Wednesday night, so me and Sam Neat, had been, got the truck there, set everything up, and I said to Sam, right, if we crack on, get everything set up, it's not as much a hard day tomorrow. Yeah. All the garage boarding up and all that. So when all the lads turned up, we said, look, the garage is pretty much done. We said, oh, sound. And Simon's like, yeah, we'll go in at 10 or whatever tomorrow. So he was with us, he was drinking with us and that. So we all went in, honestly, we were absolutely like bent in half. Then next day we went to the circuit, everyone's rough and hanging out there. And Spanner says, oh, we need to change some injectors on the airbox. I'm like, yeah, no bother. I did it. And then a few of us used to sleep in the truck, so it was like beds in the truck. So we'd like take it in shifts to go and have a bit of a lie down on that. And honestly, I don't know how we got through that day, but then on a Friday when we went back in, I said to Spanner, I was like, just going to take the airbox off. Just so I thought, I can't remember doing it. So I can't remember doing it. So it's like, yeah, no problem. But I mean, he was all on the same page, so it was fine.
Always good to double check,
Yeah,
just to be sure. And were they all right?
yeah.
I thought they might
That's it. But yeah, it was a good night, that. Then we went back on a Sunday night because I thought I was going to make it with crap. No one in there.
Ah,
I don't know why. It was
weird, a little random Wednesday night in Portugal.
Yeah. But yeah, it's great. All the flashing glasses on, and yeah, it got a bit out of control, to be fair, on a school night.
Well, sometimes it's good to let your hair down and just, it's all right, isn't it?
But that year, the time they put me through my HGV license to drive the truck.
Invaluable.
But he sort of, it's like beginning of the year, it's like, right, waiting to the HGV. I was like, okay. He just Googled HGV, clicked on the first one, and he's like, yep, you're doing this. But I think he just expects you to do it in a week. Obviously, you need to do theory.
Yeah.
So did that. Then you went to Australia for the first round, come back, got your rigid, and went in, did 2 or 3 races in Europe. And it was like August before you got to pass it because you was trying to fit it in everywhere. So literally, I passed my test on the Friday, and then we had a round in Russia at the Moscow Raceway.
Of course, yeah.
On the following week. So we left on the Sunday to go to Russia. So my first driving experience. So it was me and Paul Williamson. Set off Louth down to Dover, across to France, drove up to Hamburg, got on a boat for 20 hours through the Baltic Sea to Latvia, I think it was.
Yeah.
Latvia, all the way through Latvia to the Russian border. And then you turned up, had your documents and that. But there was no set time where you get your passport back. You just literally sat there. Okay, you can go through. Then you went in convoy, 2 or 3 trucks at a time. And there was a Renault Twingo in front and a man with a machine gun. That was your convoy to drive through Russia. I thought, and the back window's all smashed in. I thought, what are you going to do in your Renault Twingo? You know what I mean? But mate, it was horrendous. It was the worst experience of my life. The roads, you was going down the time I could stop, and then it'd be gravel or mud. And you in your HGV, you just going around everything. And there's a couple of people to the motorhomes got absolutely destroyed. I think as you took in motorhome, all the back axle had been ripped off it and stuff like that. It was the roads were that bad.
Bloody hell.
It was horrendous. And then eventually you got to this Moscow Raceway, middle of nowhere, and there was a Coca-Cola vending machine in the middle of the paddock. So we got there, and there's nothing in the services, no services. I just started. We got there and got a can of Coke or something out there. Been driving for 2 or 3 days. It was horrendous. Then coming back, going there, the organisers, would have been Flamini Group back then, maybe.
Yes.
They Harry Dortley, helped you a bit and all that. But coming back, it was crack on, help yourself. And driving back, it was which way we're going to do? We decided to drive through Poland. Honestly, mate, it was so dodgy, so dodgy. We made it back, but.
He may have had Paul Williamson on the go now, and he's with MLAF, Moto 3.
Yeah.
All the names that keep coming up.
Yeah.
But I mean, to get, where are we going? Moscow.
Yeah.
This is your first time driving an HGV.
The track in that was, land, it was in the middle of nowhere. They could have made it mega, but then literally the runoff was 0, you know what I mean? It was.
Once the time comes to the end with Simon at PTR,
Yep.
Then the Grand Prix comes knocking.
Yep.
This is the big time.
Yeah, this is a bit random how I found out about it, but literally it was when the Motegi Grand Prix was on. So my brother and a guy called Mark Barnett, who were my brother at the time at Honda, he was listening in on a conversation with Alberto Puig saying that Honda want to run a Moto2 team, and there was saying, oh yeah, and there's organising buying a truck. And so he's like, oh, what's this for? And he's like, yeah, we're starting a Moto2 team. So then Mark said to my brother, said, oh, why don't you get on to Matt, see if he's interested. So I was up, getting ready to watch the Grand Prix, and brother rang me up, and I'm like, why are you ringing? It's 5 in the morning. It's one of them oh, what's happened?
Is everything okay?
And so then he went, right, need to email this lady called Hatsumi. There's going to be a Moto2 team next year. Taddy's going to be the team manager. This and this. He said, get on it now. I was like, all right. So I'm sat there in bed, knocking up a TV. Literally sent it to this Hatsumi. Said, look, I've heard this is happening. And before the race had finished, they said, yeah, if you've got the job, we'll Taddy, because I work with Taddy.
Of course, you were with him
GSE.
at HM Plant, yeah.
He's like, yeah, Matt sound, yeah, we'll get him on board. And that's it. That's how the Grand Prix thing came about. And I was going to Valencia anyway. And just at the end of the year, there's a little trip. And I said, I'll come to Valencia. And they're like, right, yeah, we're testing on the Monday or Tuesday afterwards, if you could stay for that. And I was like, yeah, no, I didn't tell Simon at the time because, you know what I mean, I thought it'd be a bit pissy and whatnot. And to be fair, well, he weren't happy, but because he'd put me through a license, HCV license and that. I said, look, so he didn't pay me for like December, so I used that to pay for my truck test.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And
that was that. So then I went to Valencia, did the test, then went to Sepang, like Honda was testing, and it was first time Marquez was riding the GP bike.
Oh.
And it was all like a bit undercover.
Yeah.
I think he'd done the Valencia test, then we had a test in Malaysia, and it turned out Kianari was riding our bike. Had a Marawaki Moto2 bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kia was testing, so I went there in Malaysia, and that's the first time I've been to Malaysia with the heat and all that. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? What's this? So yeah, we did that test ready for the 13 season.
That was Mark's first year, wasn't it, with HRC? Yeah. And then the start of the Moto2 project with Idemitsu.
So literally, there was Mark on track and Kia. That was it. So it was great to see Marquez like first time on Honda. So yeah, when the team started, literally, Taddy had bought some stuff from a Moto2 team what had stopped. And we didn't really know what we were getting, and it all got shipped to Alst in Belgium, where HRC had the workshop. So literally, me and this guy called Mark Fleming, who works for Erta now, we went, and it was a year when Repsol run 3 bikes, and they took it back down to the 2 riders. So literally, there's a room with a full like everything you'd need to like go. And Roger, the coordinator on there, Roger van der Waart, he said, like, just help yourself. And he was like, just going to like a sweet shop. So yeah, we need that, need that, need that. But you know, with like stuff like baskets, like fuel jugs, like literally everything. And then he said, yeah, just take it all. So we like hit the ground running. You know, we had everything back. And like these bike crates, what Taddy had bought from this other team, we opened them and they were just full. They had all like the engine starters, they had like pit boards. And he didn't realise, they thought we'd have to buy it all. So we like loaded it into a truck, went down, I think I had to test Almeria, went down to Almeria and just had everything. It was easy. You know, it was great really. But that year, it's had a Marawaki and Yuki Takashi was riding. And I think the bike was probably better than he was. He was probably getting right towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
You know, didn't have that good results, but what Marawaki was putting into it was incredible. The bike was fantastic. Like the quality of it was like HRC spec. You know, in all
absolutely
Japanese. It was really, really nice thing to work on. But yeah, I just didn't really get the results. He got the flick about halfway through the season. We got a Malaysian lad on it called Aslan Shah. He was a character. He was, Jesus Christ. He'd like never been out of Europe before. Never been out of Malaysia before. Come to Europe. It was like with the Japanese, they used to stay in Europe a lot. So back then you could test when you want. So,
okay, there's no restrictions.
So basically if the Japs weren't going out, oh, let's test in Aragon. Yeah. We're like, okay. You know what I mean? If it's like, so sometimes at the time I was single, didn't have a missus or so I was just staying out in Barcelona for like a couple of weeks on end at a time and was down the beach with Aslan, never seen a woman in a bikini before. He sat there like, never really drank. I don't think he should have drank either. Sat there with a beer, just like, tongue on the floor, like thinking, this is fantastic. It was just like, yeah, good times with that.
It's different with the culture shock, and like I say, with Kyo and coming over from Japan to Laos and with Aslan, and there are the culture shocks for everybody.
Yeah, I'd say more so for them than for when we go to Asia. You know what I mean? I don't know, I guess if we got chucked in the middle of Japan on your own, it'd be a bit...
I suppose, yeah. That is a completely different life, and how everything's set up, the vending machines, the whole culture is so different to what we're used to. Even just from being polite, which seems to be less and less these days in general. But so that was after that was the point that came. You start with Taka Nakagami.
Yeah, we swapped from that one. Then see. Yeah, we swapped from Marawaki, swapped to Calix, because the Japs are like, we need to make a step here.
Yeah.
So, swapped to Calix. I think Nakagawa was with the ETEL Trans team at the time. I think he'd had like a run of 3 or 4 podiums. I thought, we're going to have onto a good year here. And then, I got to Qatar, finished on the podium, and I got disqualified because we had a air filter infringement. We had
oh dear.
But basically, we went the race after in America. We went and sat with like Danny Aldridge from Herta. I got like the papers out, and basically the kit had like a kit air filter in it, which was like a foam, like sponge.
Right.
But then on another page, like you could change like the inlet and like put a bung on the airbox. It's like standard 600 airbox, and like a pipe what you had to take off and put here and block this off or not block this off. So these 2 bits of paper was contradicting themselves a bit. And just like an oversight on the Jabs, but lost that podium. And to be fair, I think it affected Taka more than we realised. It didn't really get going much after that. It was...
He was always there or thereabouts, but he never really challenged, did he? So much?
It was like, I don't know, 6th or 7th and stuff like that. It was, it just didn't... Saying that though, it was like, you had like Redding, Rabat, Paul Espargaro, we had massive names,
strong teams.
Like Luti and like, he had massive, strong fields like Moto2.
Which was, again, it's about things aligning. Another time, another place, he'd have been a contender. And as the career that he went on to have through MotoGP, he did well for himself without excelling, if that's a fair way to look at it.
Yeah. But, so stayed with the same team pretty much for the year after. Same similar sort of thing really. It was Liverpool a little bit better. So on Calix, then we got a podium in Misano. I think it's the only podium we had all that year. But then that same day, that's when my brother got a podium with Scott Redding on that random MotoGP race where he crashed, pulled in, rain, stopped raining, went back out, and he got a podium that day as well. That was pretty cool.
The joint podiums are great. Yeah. So when the Moto2 gig ended and you went to Mark VDS, is that when?
Yeah. So
you and Mark had worked together the first time.
Yeah. So that was end of 15. I was talking to the VDS team. Just ran Scott Redding for one rider team. There was going to 2 rider team with Rabat and Miller. So obviously they needed more staff. So I was talking to Michael Bartolome. That was in Motegi. And then I wanted to sit down with Taddy and like tell him, so I had quite a lot of respect for Taddy from BSB and obviously give him a chance in Moto2 and that. So I wanted to like sit with him and tell him sort of face to face. And I was walking back from hospitality, and there used to be a rider coach called Stefan Prime, Ian Wheeler.
Ian Wheeler,
was one of that.
Winner of the 1995 Czech Grand Prix or something like that.
So I come back from hospitality, and I'm with like all the Japs and all that. And he's walking up to me and he's like saying, "Hey Matt," he says, "welcome to the team." And he like went to high five me like that. And I looked across the Taddy and he's like, "What's that?" I went, so but it was sound, I mean, I was happy that and he was happy you're staying with Honda,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's still within the family.
Yeah, he was a big Honda bloke, was Taddy, so I started with VDS. Brother was there, Craig, Burton, Chris Pike. So first year, me and brother had actually worked in the same team. It was good. I think my brother felt like maybe a lot of pressure on him because he's like said to the Jap, said to Michael, whatever, and if I weren't any good, it looks bad on him as well.
Of course it does, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think he felt a bit, but once we got going and that, it was sound, and we went to Japan to HRC again, built 2 brand new bikes for Tito. Went to Australia, crashed 3 times. Went to Malaysia, crashed 3 times. Went to Qatar, crashed 3 times. So before the season started, we had 9 massive crashes. And then when we go to Qatar, you have the test, you have a week off, so you come home, you leave everything set up, and then you go back for the race. We left Qatar, there was a triple clamp on the bench and maybe a footrest plate, and that's all that was left. It was like, we crashed three times in less than 5 minutes. It gets a bit down, a bit dewy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the dew point was a big thing in Qatar, wasn't it?
Got past the point, and we was like, we left everything, got a flight home, came back, and we were just like,
Here we go.
Big John on here.
So what was, you'll know about this one and who I've been speaking to and who mentioned it when we talk about Laugh with the Lloyds.
Oh yeah, Wheeler.
Yeah, and what's in Matt's box?
He started like, back then it's probably when more content for the team
It
started.
was the early days of actually getting content,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I mean,
in terms of
just
social
box.
media, yeah.
And he just used to tell like the crappiest dad joke ever, you know what I mean? It was all right. Then, yeah, what's in Matt's box? We used to, like a random, not necessarily a tool, but something else, like, what's this for? And show you on the bike and all that. And there's some things, I remember Wheeler said there was some video, he got more views or whatever than like anything any rider had done that year. So he had like Miller, Rabat in Moto2, you had Alex Marquez and Franco Morbidelli and all that. Yeah, he said, oh, your video is probably the most viewed one. I was like, mint.
She's perfect. And Ian's done a lot of that over the years, and a lot maybe the viewers and listeners won't realise whether he started the British Superbike website. He did the first ever BSB website, and then he went on and to create content for Mark VDS over the years. He was very much a pioneer. I don't want to blow smoke up his arse in any way, but he was a bit of a pioneer in terms of early days of internet content.
Yeah. I've got a lot of time for Ian. He's a good bloke. That's spot on.
He gave me my start.
Oh, yeah.
I say my start. He gave me my foot into the business by setting up an interview with Scott Redding.
Yeah.
When he was at Mark VDS, and that got put in Motorcycle Racer magazine, and kind of continued, and here we are.
Yeah.
Shame how we ended up today. So again, thank you, Ian. Yeah. Told you this was going to be a while, didn't I? You said to me, you're like, run it. It might be an hour. I said, no, it's not.
Yeah. So yeah, the end of the year, Tito.
I'm going to edit this, yeah?
I know. Tito wanted a bit of a change around, so Chris Pike went, got a guy in Diego Gubellini, if I pronounce his name right, but it was now Fabio's crew chief. Like, he came in, team pretty much stayed the same. My brother then moved to KTM, and so he'd gone. And then I took on the job as doing the spare parts as well, just for our side, because we had Tito had like still a factory bike.
Yes.
And on the other side, Miller was still there. He had like a year, not a year older, but probably a little bit spec less. So like two parts guys were separate. So I did the parts, which I really enjoyed. Really getting stuff out of packets every weekend. It was putting in orders in for like 20 grand radiators for an RCV. You know what I mean? It was incredible, really. But yeah, the VDS days were good. They had the Moto2 team. She had like Stewie Miller there, and Lolo had Moto2 team. I was sponsored by Estrella on tap, which were dodgy. He finished work a bit early, but
Hospitality was full of it, wasn't it?
yeah, it was great, absolutely great. That hospitality, mega atmosphere, and
it was a good team to be a part of, wasn't it? It was a fresh team into the paddock, and it was something that was built around great riders and bringing in the right people, which Mark van der Straten and Michael Bartolome and Ian made sure it was staffed right.
Like at the end of the season, used to the workshop week, but then you'd have like 2 or 3 parties what Michael had organised, or especially when like Morbidelli won the championship, and then on the Sunday end of workshop week, we saw this massive go-karting event for Estrella. So you'd have like, back then there was like Alex Marquez, Aaron Carnett were there, like Frankie, Jack, and like Tom Luty, all the riders basically. And like we had this on the Saturday night, we had like a bit of a do, but which is in the go-karting place, but in like their function room. So it was all like on the beers and that. And the people who organised the karting said, oh, you can go and have a go if you want, have a bit of a warm-up for tomorrow. So it was all like half cut, all in like your winkle pickers trying to like drive these go-karts. Like, it was horrendous. Remember Andy, our data lad, put Canet in the wall. It was like bad, like, oops. He still talks about it now, to be fair. But
He'll not have taken that well.
no. And then like you do like an endurance race on the Sunday, but the whole week through the workshop, it's a big drinking session, like in the bar in the hotel, like left the
I'm not a fan of that stuff.
2 lefts and a right, and you was on your ass like mine. It's bad. And then even in the workshop, it's a mega workshop. Van der Straten had like that sounds about daft, like a greenhouse thing, like a glass sort of thing in the middle of the workshop. So he's just sitting there with like classical music on, like drinking his red wine, like looking at everyone working and that.
Wow.
All his trophies and stuff like that inside. And then we had a storeroom, but it was like full of like wine and that from hospitality. And So you went in for a part, Tito was in there on the red wine. So you'd go in for a part, you're going to have a glass of red wine. So it's like 2 in the afternoon, you're turning to working and everyone was like pissed. Like
What a great culture.
it was mega. Workshop week was great. Really good.
Look, you didn't spend too much time.
Honestly, you get home and you just like, your insides would you're aching, you know what I mean? You just think you need a detox down.
Was it sad that finished?
Yeah, it was. So that was 18.
Yeah.
You know, started 18. I don't think I will ever get down to why it finished from between Michael and Marina.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously nothing to do with us, but yeah, it was sad it finished. But it was quite early on as well. It was in Jerez. It was quite the first European round.
Oh, really?
They found out what was going on.
Crikey.
I mean, it's all like falling apart and that. And
Yeah.
at the same, at that beginning of that weekend, so our MotoGP trucks got driven to Jerez empty because the freight comes in from Qatar first race.
Sure.
That's the first European race. And so it got parked like a bit out of the way. And so Olivier, the French driver, worked on Luti's side at the time, picked the truck up, but drove it onto the track to get into the paddock. But, you know, like a sponsor advertising thing, there's like a bit of a girder hanging down and it hit the front of the truck and he peeled the truck open.
No.
Like a tin opener. This truck was brand new. We used it in Aragon and Valencia the year before. This from Bischoff and Sheikh, like £1 million truck, and hit the tail lift, put the tail lift out the rams. So the tail lift was like scraping along the floor like that. So anyway, I got to Jerez and Ozzy, who I work with, said, "Oh, there's a bit of a problem with the truck." And I was like, "What? Like the battery gone flat because it's been parked for a bit." And he went, "No, there's a bigger problem." He said, "You'll see tomorrow." I was like, "Yeah, okay." So we got to the paddock and one truck was parked and there was a gap where our truck should have been. And with that, the truck drove in, all like roof caved in and the tail was just scraping along the floor. Like Olivier at the bridge on the circuit. So then for the rest of the season, we had like this shitty, call it Häagen-Dazs truck. The shitty white truck looked like an ice cream van. Because the team had sort of fallen apart.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy a new one, are they? I'll get it.
Didn't get it fixed. And so that was like the truck I worked out of. So you had like no aircon in it. You had like, out in the spare parts still. It was a disaster, like absolute disaster. Even when we see Olivier now, we look like Olivier and I duck down like that, like driving the truck.
Nobody ever allowed to forget anything, are they?
No, they're like, because the team sort of went to shit that weekend, it never really got mentioned. You know what I mean? Because if bigger things happened, that was it.
So how do you go on with the season? You just like head down, keep going.
Yeah, you kept going and, you know, as long I looked at it like you're still getting paid and
That's the bottom line, isn't it? So long as money's going in at the end of the month, it's pay an invoice.
But I don't mind. Frankie had joined the team. He'd come from Moto too, so it was like his first year. I won the Rookie of the Year that year. But then the bike was, you know, difficult to ride and that. But probably from about Assen, so 2 or 3 rounds in, we heard about this Petronas team was going to start. And so then Stiggy and whatnot had heard that VDS had sort of fallen apart. So he pretty much, the whole of the VDS team turned into the Petronas team. And it was weird, like we knew each other was probably going to go there, but you'd like go to like Stiggy's truck, have a little meeting, you come out and like Stu would be going up the steps. "Oh, what are you doing?" "Nothing." And like go in, you'd come out and then someone else would be going, and it was like, so that was like as early as like Assen, so quite, you know, way before the summer break.
That's way before. That's June, isn't it?
So to be honest, it was a shame the VDS thing did finish, but you knew you was secure for the year after, you know what I mean? And
That's what I was going to say. To get sorted that early,
yeah,
is a big relief, isn't it? So go into the winter, the rest of the season, then the winter, knowing,
yeah.
Oh, we've got a job for next year.
So yeah, so after Valencia, the last race of VDS, we pretty much said, "We'll see you later." We all went down to, we sort of took over the Tech 3 box because then they moved to KTM.
Yes.
But honestly, we walked in, and it was just shit everywhere. Like, I was thinking, Jesus Christ, we had to like set all the carpet up. We had some like temporary garage board in Petronas, all that. But honestly, out the back, and then too, it'd been raining all weekend, so the bikes were absolutely hanging. It was Steve Blackburn's old bike. Was it? And I text him, I was like, "Mate, so you could have given it a bit of a wipe." It was minging. And then, like going from Honda, like everything was like really secretive. And I think in the 3 years I was there, you never saw the gearbox. Even the brother did the gearbox, said, "Take the gearbox out, put it in a little box."
Yeah.
And you'd go to the gearbox, you'd come back in, you never saw it. I'm really like secretive. Then you went to Yamaha, and all the Tech 3, there's all like gearboxes on the floor, gears on the floor, and just...
So you can work out the ratios and everything. Everything's all there.
Bloody hell, what's going on here? And that was like, just... In 1 minute you're in one team, next minute you're in there. Then on the Monday, I had to change an engine on the bike. Never seen it before, and to be fair, it was quite a simple bike to work on. It was lovely, really, really nice. But this Jap was there, like a million miles an hour, like this, and you're just like, trying to like take it all in to get ready to do like a day's test, and not like look to that Frankie like you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
First time you've seen the Yamaha?
Yeah. And obviously Fabio joined on the other side. But yeah, it's pretty much the whole VDS team. I can't think anyway. And Ben Fry, he came up from Stiggy's Moto 3 team. So everyone knew each other, maybe hit the ground running. And
well, it's not so bad. At least you rolled it together. You can muck in then, can't you? But that's kind of when the relationship with Frankie started. I know it was 2020 was a difficult season with everything that went on, and we don't need to go into that side of things because it was tough enough anyway with the way the world was. But to start working with Frankie and having the success that you did in that first year, we talk about hitting the ground running.
But in 19, I think Fabio had a good year. Yeah, I think he had a podium, I think in Barcelona or something like that. And like, I think Frankie was a bit surprised. He's sort of like, Fabio like served his ass on the plate, to be fair. But he came into 2020 and Frankie had like last load of 8, like leaned up, and it was like unreal. Went testing, he was like fastest by a mile. I thought, not too bad, be all right here. And then obviously went to Qatar testing. Been to Malaysia testing, came home and all that COVID thing was starting. I remember being on a plane with Johnny. He sat next to me on the flight, and like I got all the hand sanitizer and some wipes and that, and I'm wiping the seat and all this. But he's going, so what are you doing? I says, mate, it's coming. So I'll tell you. And he's like, oh, just sure. And anyway, like we went to Qatar, did the Qatar test, come home, and then the Moto 2, Moto 3 went out there to test. And then literally I was supposed to fly out on Monday, and Stiggy rang us, he went, so it's been cancelled. So waiting for like official confirmation, but we're not going to Qatar. Like, okay, a bit weird, but it'll be all right, we'll go to America next week, whatever. But all the stuff was still set up in the garage. So Callum went out, and the Moto 3 lads, they did their race, Moto 2, Moto 3.
They did race, right?
Yeah. So there are a couple of lads from the Moto 2 and 3 team, they helped. They take the garage down, box everything up. But then, just sat it out for 6 months, like waiting, you see what was going to happen. But once it did get going, it was, obviously different, wasn't it? Different for everybody. And, I was doing like 3 races on the trot, like back to back, and stuff like that. And, we went to Jerez. Fabio won both races, and Frankie DNF'd. Had a valve break. So then went to Brno. Frankie was leading, and Binder got us on the last couple of laps. But it's like Frankie's first podium, and then obviously my brother worked for Binder, so we didn't really mind so much. It was pretty cool. That's the first time we did like 1-2 in the MotoGP. That was quite nice.
It's another special moment, isn't it? It's another one.
We had all the masks on and that. You know what I mean? It was hard work, but then then later that year, Frankie got his first win in Misano. That was his home race as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Obviously, I had a big crash in Austria. Yeah. Which was, that was bad. God knows how they missed Vinales and Rossi.
It just bisected a bit, didn't it?
Yeah. So that weekend, we only, at 50 points, he got 15th in the race the weekend after. So he had 1 point out of 50. Then at the end of the year, he only lost the championship by about 8.
It was third in the championship. No, second in the championship. Yeah, he was second in the championship to Joan Mir.
Won again in Valencia and Aragon.
Yeah.
It was a strange one. Like, you had 2 races back to back at the same circuit. Yeah. They say you won in Misano, but then it was like way off the next race. You like won in Valencia, you're way off the next race. So you never had
never two the same.
No.
And you think it was Mir's consistency that won in that championship.
Yeah, you see, he only won 1 race.
The very last one of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was like, this is now or never, mate. You're going to do your Andrew Pitt.
Yeah.
You're going to win a championship without winning a race. Yet Frankie had got into his groove.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of DNFs, and you think, well, it would have been a shoulda, woulda, coulda.
that's the thing. Like I say, afterwards, you start the season, you don't think you're going to win the championship. Then I remember like being in the truck with Callum and that, we used to drive, and I went, should have won that championship. When you think about like, we DNF'd in Jerez with F12. He only crashed in Le Mans in the wet, but he remounted, but the TV camera was like hanging off a cable and it was hitting the rear tyre, and it cut a groove in the rear tyre. So
did it actually cut a groove with it?
So he I saw lifts and butts. But
Yeah. Nobody is though.
You know what I mean?
If is the biggest word in racing. If that hadn't happened, and
obviously the big crash, just taking 1 point out of 50 in Austria, didn't do us any favours. No,
if you manage a top 5 finish, it would have been a different story. Let's see his lid behind you.
Yeah, that was fun. Was Arno
From 2020.
Yeah, there's so many of these.
I mean, you can see 1 or 2 on the screen and button for our audio listeners. Some Morbidelli lids on the wall. There's a Cluzel one. We've got Aslan Shah. There's Dovey. There's Tommy Hurley. Cal Crutchlow. There's a Keogh. Jim Moody up at the top there. It's a lovely little wall to be proud of.
The diamond fund, I think, when there's.
It's a beautiful thing, especially to do this in front of it. So 2021 thing, you had 5 riders in 2021.
Yeah, that was interesting. So we started with obviously Frankie, and after the back of 2020, I thought, we're going to have a era challenger. But what we didn't know, he injured his knee, and he didn't tell anybody. And so we got to Le Mans and was practicing a bike swap. But I think early on in the year, I did this like a lollipop stop thing at the front, and like in the holder bike, and we practiced one early in the year. And like as he jumped off the bike, he like sort of fell into the bike, and then he like sort of put his head down and he was like laughing. He's like, "Cause I've missed it. I'm sorry, boys. I was like, I've a jump, whatever." So then when we did it in Le Mans, I had the stop sign and he jumped, but then the bike fell over and he's like laid on the bike. I thought he would like messing, and then on the right hand side of the bike, there's like a little fuel catch tank, and that started to fill up, just like some fuel mist coming out. So I get this lollipop stick and I'm like tapping Frankie on the head, saying, "Come on, mate, get up." I thought because he was messing, innit? He got up and then he couldn't stand up. His knee had popped out. Well, no one knew. So I felt bad that on the bloody head. And Brains made a video of it, and he put "Wake Me Up Before You Go." And I'm like tapping Frankie on the head of this bloody lollipop stick.
But he's there, but his knee in pieces.
Yeah. And then sort of popped it in. He said, "Oh, it's fine." And then did the race, and he got I think he got touched by Espargaro, went into the gravel, and as he like had a dab in the gravel, his knee popped out again. So then he's laid on his back in the gravel. Then the race got started raining, so it was a bit flag to flag, and he realised it was raining. He put his knee back in and got going. Then he just retired, and the team said, "Look, you need to sort it out. It's still early enough in the season. Try and come back." And so he left. The race after, we had Garrett Gerloff. And World Superbikes. He was a nice lad, really nice lad. Then, what was it? It was old mate Crutchlow back. He came.
What was that like to be working with Callum?
Oh, it was mega. He's like a couple of lads like Stewie. Ben had worked with him years and years ago. Callum didn't really know him. Stewie didn't know him. Andy had seen him at Tech 3. And I just said to the lads, "Look," I said, "if we don't get any results," I said, "you're going to have one of the best few racers," because he's such a good, he pins in and he's just, pulls it how it is, and what I mean, and mega lad. Even he texted me the other day because when he did ride for us, Stewie, when he used to go, Stewie had to put the pit lane limiter on, and when he exited the pits, he got a fine for like I don't know €100 for this pit lane thing. But he blamed Stewie, so he refused to pay it. He said, "Oh, Stewie needs to pay it." So even like now, he's was this thing against Stewie, and he texted the other day and he says when Agura got on the bike. He went, "No, make sure Stewie turns the pit lane limiter on it, so they still owes me some money." And it's like years later, you know what I mean? It's sort of just grudge against him. But yes, Crutchlow sound, we always stayed in touch. Really nice lad. So I had Crutchlow. They were supposed to have him for Silverstone, which would have been mega.
Right.
But then in Austria, Vinales blew his Yamaha up, so he'd left. So then they put Carroll in the factory team. So then Jay Dixon got on the bike for Silverstone and Aragon, I think it was. So he rode. And so he went back to Moto2. Then, we got Duffy.
Duffy came in.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought, oh, it might be good here, he's only sort of person who's took it to Marquez over the last couple of seasons and that, what I mean? And,
Last of the old guard.
yeah, and I think then he jumped on the Yamaha and I thought, maybe it's not as good as I thought it was going to be. So then Dobby continued the year after with the U-team.
Yeah.
But then we got the factory bike with the same as the next door, everything the same. But yeah, I just didn't click with it, and he was in a retirement mode. He didn't even finish the season. Mazzano had done,
That's it, man. What, as a mechanic, how does that make you feel if the rider's not giving what he can do, or do you just head down and do what you do?
Yeah, end of the day, we do the same job. If you're going to win the race or you're going to finish last in the race, you don't put any less effort in, and I don't think riders, they're still trying, what I mean? They're still, out there faster than what any of us can ride, what I mean? It's just a different mindset, really, like I said before, when Salvador rides your bike, it's in more of a testing mode, and you're not going to get a result, so you're not really, I won't say nervous, I still get nervous, no matter who's going to go out on the bike. But when you're going to win, so like with Frankie, when you think that you got to win on it, you do shoot yourself more than you normally do.
Do you still recount in your head, have I done this, have I done that? Or are you at a point now where you...
Yeah, I always... No, I'm in double checking stuff, what I mean? And even if, say like Stewie or Ben or whatever, put like a caliper on, they'll just say, I'll just give that a check. But it's not like, you've done it.
Of course you mean. Yeah, no, it's reassurance. It's not an actual check, it's a visual check.
You say like Ben will get the torque wrench, just give the back wheel nutter, and you're like, and then you get in, just to make, what I mean? It's just, I don't know, a bit of a comfort thing.
It's almost like checking the back door at night.
Yeah, what I mean?
I know I've done it, but I'm just going to give it a push anyway, because I did it an hour ago. Yeah. So I can't do it.
But sometimes, like say you change your front wheel and that in a session, you're doing it that quick, and you just like bang, 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 and then you've done it, but you think, I've done it, what I mean? It's bizarre, really.
What was it like to share the garage with Valentino?
Yeah, mega. It's Valentino Rossi, innit? He'd walk in the box and it's still wowed by it, what I mean? And then later on, as he got to know you and that, he'd come over, because Frankie was, at the time, he was Frankie's teammate, so still from the VR40.
So it's all the academy part, isn't it?
Probably towards when like Frankie had gone, he probably didn't come across as much, and whatnot, but yeah, he'd still come in the box and the morning to you all, and also like buy at night, and it was spot on.
You're allowed to still be a fan, aren't you, even though you're working in the sport?
Yeah, like, I think people have either Rossi or Marquez, weren't they, for the thing, but from like seeing Marquez through the Honda times when we did a lot of Repsol, always next door to them with BDS, and like, I like Marquez, for what he's done, especially now where it's come back from and that, like amazing. But like with Rossi and that, I think, with Rossi, what I mean? Everything he's achieved, and you can't take it away from either of them.
It's the history of the sport, isn't it?
It's like that. But I think with Rossi, when his girlfriend got pregnant, like my mum, as soon as she like gets wind son pregnant, there's like smoke coming off her knitting needles. So she'd like she knitted for everyone, what I mean? And she'd made some clothes for Rossi's kid. Right. Made like little like yellow boots and bits and bobs. And like she got a nice bag. Normally she'd like give it in a Tesco bag, but she went to like Clinton's, got a nice bag, didn't they? And it was
good fibres with.
I took it and I had it in my bag for a bit. I remember a couple of races, I'm thinking, I felt like a bit weird giving it in, thinking, it's Rossi, innit, what I mean? And then I spoke to Heather, who was our coordinator at the time. She's like, he's in his office now, in his room. Do you just go in and give it him? So I knocked on his door. He's like, ciao, Matt. And I was like, okay, you know your name sort of thing. I was like, this is mint. And I said, I've just got you a gift. And he's like, oh, what is it? What is it? And his girlfriend was sat there. I said, my mum just made you this. And like, he got it out of the bag. And like his missus, she was like, oh my God. She just like started crying. And he was like, oh, this is amazing. Like got these boots, like put them on his fingers, and he's like, really doing all that. But like every week, he'd get something off a fan. And a lot of time we'd see it in, I don't know, it sounds a bit bad, but we'd see it in the truck and not even entertain it, you know what I mean? Because he got you used to get so much stuff. And anyway, he's put in his bag and she's like looking and like, she's like, oh, thank you. And he like shook your hand and gives a hug and whatnot. And then I just thought, oh, well, if he leaves in the truck. But like probably an hour or so later, I was in hospitality and she still had this bag. And I saw her, she like got the bag, opened it and like took it out. And she's like, you know, like felt like,
Wow.
and I thought, that's mega, you know what I mean? She's really
Shaken by it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And even like later on, you know, his races later, like, he'd come and say, oh, thanks so much for that gift. You know what I mean? It's really kind and all that.
I
And
think it's so nice when it's somebody's taken the time to make it, and you have that connection with them, and it's like something different. Here you go, this is for you, and this is for your child. It changes the dynamic, especially when it's your first child.
yeah.
Changes the dynamic completely.
So it was great. Really, I told mum, she was like, well, chuffed, like, Aaron.
That's class. She'll be over the moon with that. That's it. That's her done now. That's it. In that way. So that brings us back now full circle.
Yeah.
To then working with Miguel, and then the swap from RNF to Trackhouse Aprilia.
Yeah.
We've gone full circle.
Yeah. Going around the block.
Told you we'd get there eventually, didn't I? How do you cope with the traveling there? Now we can talk about the mechanic stuff. How do you cope with the traveling? Because I guess when you started it, was it 16, 18 rounds?
Yeah, pretty much. And the flyaway you do at the beginning, it was Qatar, so it's not bad.
Yeah.
6 hours, you know, and then, I only really had the 3 Asian rounds at the end, like Australia, Malaysia, Japan.
Yeah.
And that weren't that many years ago, but now the trouble like Indonesia in, you had India last year, Thailand, Argentina, obviously America. But yeah, it's normally like end of season heavy. So normally you're a bit like knackered anyway. And then you got all the flyer races. But to be honest, personally, I think a lot of other lads, the flyaways they are easier because you ain't got the trucks there. You know, everything's in a box you pack away like dead quick. Every box is a specific for what's going in, it sort of thing. And, you know, you do pack away quick and you're out of there, sort of thing. And especially the lads who did drive the truck, say like another day or two either side of the race weekend, like extra. But yeah, I don't mind the traveling. It is what it is. You know what I mean? You need the mindset that, okay, you're on a plane for whatever, 10 hours to Bangkok. And to be fair, and it annoys Nicky like anything, I can just sleep like no problem on a flight. Even
that's useful.
Beside Amsterdam, it's only 40 minutes, so I get 50 minutes sleeping. You know what I mean? It's like, Mrs. like, how was your flight? Yeah, great. You went to sleep, didn't you? Yep. You know what I mean? Even like Brad's this year, we had we were from Indonesia to Japan, and then we travel, because it's rare you travel with the whole team. Like normally, obviously I'm coming from the UK. A lot of time I meet Frankie Carcetti's on the same flight from Humberside, it's like nearest one to us. Then like Stu comes from Scotland. Normally you can meet up in Amsterdam, or normally you just meet people at the where you are, sort of thing. So on the flyaways, you do travel with the teams together. You know, you've got the charter flights direct from like Indonesia to Japan and things like that. So we're traveling with our crew chief, Giovanni. I think it's probably the first time I've sat next to him on a flight. It was probably about 8.5 hours, and literally I got in, got the blanket on, neck pillow on, eye mask on, the whole flight, and he woke me up like coming into land. And I said, oh, you hadn't much sleep? And he went, I can't sleep on flights, I'm so jealous. And I'm like, oh, I feel mint, I feel fresh as a daisy.
What's next?
Yeah. But yeah, it's, I think Stewie told a story once when he was on a flight back to Glasgow. I think it's only maybe from Spain or something. We'd had a big night before. Literally got on the flight, went to sleep, got to Glasgow. As I coming into land, like Stewie woke up and said this old lady was next to him and like punished him. She says, oh, sorry, I thought you was deed. No, like fast knocks and I moved for like 2.5 hours.
Oh, bless her.
Sometimes we're lucky enough sometimes to be in business.
Yeah.
More so this year, Davide's like brought it in. He said like home from Japan, like back to Australia, he was lucky enough to fly businesses, so you're a bit more.
That's nice.
Fresh, you know what I mean? But yeah, even when I was with Taddy's team, we always flew business class, which was mega. I remember coming from Japan once. I was going back into Heathrow, and like the air stewardess woke me up, like put the bed flat as soon as you could. Air hostess woke us up. She went, oh, would you like anything to eat? I said, oh, I'll have something later, like when we land. She's like, yeah, we'll land in 20 minutes. And I said, all right. I thought I'd be in the sleep for like 12.5 hours.
I mean, that is pretty impressive, Sarah.
Yeah.
That is pretty impressive. So of all the riders you've worked with over the years, if you had to put a rider at number one,
Yeah.
who would it be?
On Morbidelli, I think. Like what we achieved that year in 2020, just like how he was in the garage and put the tunes on, and you know, even now we still speak to him and that, and you know, always ask me how the girls, because my twin daughters were born like when I worked with Frankie. He always asks how they are, and like at Silverstone this year, I went to find him, and he was just like peeking out of him, you know what I mean, and fussing over and stuff like that. You know, always asks about the family, and you know, it's a bit more than just talking about like what's happening in racing and that, you know.
More of a connection.
Yeah. But with that, like other riders like Kianari, you know, we achieve a lot with him. Stay in touch with him. I wouldn't say I've worked with anyone badly. No, I mean, you know, lucky enough to work with who you've worked with. So.
And of all of your achievements with the riders, your TTs, Northwest, race wins, what's your best?
What's good I'm looking for? Achievement.
Yeah, why did I even lose that? It's not even a big word. What's your favourite achievement of so far?
I'd say the Mazzano win with Frankie that in 2020, because it was all with the COVID stuff. Everyone you couldn't go out, you couldn't, you know, using your bubbles, you think.
Yeah.
And that race, John McPhee had won in the Moto3.
Of course.
Petronas.
Yeah, of course he had. Yeah.
In Mazzano, sorry. And like when all teams had to be in a bubble that year, you had all. Lost count how many like
COVID tests, swabs and what have you.
And so it was all like a bubble, and like you had to stay in your hotel. But our hotel didn't have a restaurant. But literally over the road, there's a guy who used to work for Danny Pedrosa. He opened a pizzeria, and it literally like across from our hotel, and that was our like nominated eating place for the week.
Right.
And so we could like go back and forth to the hotel. So then on a Sunday night, then it was a back-to-back race. So we were staying in Mazzano anyway. So literally put the covers on the bikes, got changed, went to get pizza. And honestly, it was the best night ever. All like, the whole team was there, like my fee was there. Like Frankie walks in, had the trophy on the table, all like on the beers, like pizzas. And they called Dennis, the bloke around it. I got this guy in who plays, it sounds a bit daft, you know, like pots and pans.
Yeah.
And like, got these bags, like all these pots and pans on the floor, all like this drum. And just like playing all the same, everyone dancing, everyone's like on the tables, and yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's superb.
And a bit of it like, because no one really been out. Plus it's, you know, everyone's locked down. When you come home, you're locked down.
Yeah.
You know, it was like.
You're allowed to be out and about.
Yeah.
What, I mean, the great thing about that is it's a MotoGP win.
Yeah.
And not everybody gets to experience a MotoGP win, whether it's press officer, mechanic, tyre guy, girl, whatever. That's a big feather in the cap.
Yeah, it's been quite nice. Hopefully we get a few more one day.
I think that would be ideal. Before we wrap this up and we go and get a bite to eat, you've done fantastic, by the way. Well done, mate. Chuffed to bits. It's now 1:20. That is so. You've done brilliantly. Before we turn up with every guest, we put it out to the patrons. If you look in the description below, links to the Patreon page and the YouTube membership channel as well. If you want to join, get the chance to do early questions of the guests. We've got a couple for Matt. From Maggie Day. Anyone who's worked with JT, in my opinion, will have a good story to tell. What's yours? I'll buy you some time. I never check these questions before I come out. So when I look at them, it's like, oh, okay.
I don't know, really. It was pretty steady away, really. You know,
Never really came across as a party boy.
I think it was much like raucous, right? Was it like? Probably a kind story from him is when I was like, obviously collect the helmets from the riders and whatnot, and I saw he does a charity Easter run and stuff for Sheffield Hospital.
He absolutely does, yeah.
I saw he had some leathers up for auction from the year I worked with him, and I just sent him a message and I says, "Oh, have you got the helmet from that year?" And he's like, "So yeah, I think he just moved house." He said, "Give me an hour and I'll dig it out." And then he sent me a video on WhatsApp, and he'd like filmed the helmet. He said, "Oh, it's yours." And I said, "Look, I'll give you some money if you're going to auction it." And he went, No, mate. He said, "No problem." He said, "Next time you're over at your mum's," he lives like 10 minutes up from my mum. next time you're over, come have a brew and then come and get it. So I did. So then went to his house, he just signed it. And I said, oh, your mech out is from 2002. And then, that was it. He just give me the helmet from then. Yeah. Then he actually told me, he said, that is the only helmet he used the whole season. That's the only one he's got.
Wow.
And so never crashed it, never, that was it.
So that is the helmet. Because nowadays riders get new helmets every weekend nearly, don't they? But to have just one for the season, that's a little bit special. Yeah. Thank you, Maggie. And from Craig Lowe, he's got 3 questions. What do you feel has been the best and worst technical developments in bike racing over your career? That's a good question.
From maybe a mechanic's point of view, the ride-eye devices, especially the rear, and the amount of stuff what's on your left handlebar now. If the bike falls off the stand and fall over, it's a 2-hour job to fix it, let alone a crash on track. From what they do on track and how they start now, if you stand on the pit wall and watch the start and how low they are, it's unbelievable. But from a working point of view, they're a pain in the ass, and I'm looking forward to them being banned.
I thought you might say that. It's not given anybody any joy, has it, in that sense? And it's even more for the riders to think about. Ian Oney, when he pulled up on the grid and he's like, what? Enough to think about.
Yeah, all right. Now on the left, after you got your clutch, some other fun brake, you have your ride-out device. There's another button for the start to go lower, and plus all the switches. It's just, it's kind of a bit much, really. You need 2 handlebars on them, more or less.
It's not just a separate. Oh no, I can't. I'd be glad to see the back of it. Make life a lot easier for you guys, that's for sure. What area do you feel is the hardest for new MotoGP riders to get a handle on?
When I go rode the bike, probably the brakes. Getting used to carbon brakes. Like, I date a guy who pretty much looked over everything, and he said it's not too far away from, like, Martin rode Aprilia first time, Mazecki rode Aprilia first time. And he said basically in 2 main braking areas in Barcelona I was testing, he said he's losing a big chunk of time. And, he said if that's his only problem, he can soon get used to that.
You imagine going into turn 1 for the first time in top gear and then breaking down, and your first time on a MotoGP bike, eyes like saucers.
Yeah, I remember when Fabio rode the bike, the Yamaha first time, in Valencia, he braked, he broke about halfway down the back of the straight, so.
I just open the throttle a bit more. So, I'm not ready yet. And the final one from Craig, what area do you feel is the next one ripe for improvement and development with manufacturers in racing and obviously in MotoGP with the new regulations coming? Oh, well done, Craig. Thanks, mate.
What does it say again?
I just should. Let's have a look. Where is it? What's the next area of improvement and development within the manufacturers and racing? Obviously, with new regulations coming in. So,
I think,
what do you think the next big change will be?
Obviously, getting rid of the rear device, and obviously the engine's going to 850, something like that. I don't know. Manufacturers, mainly Ducati, they'll find something else to.
Of course, they'll lose a bit of aero as well at the same time.
To be fair, I don't mind the aero because you're right. At the end of the day, it's like, it's like a prototype bike. You know what I mean?
They should be pushing the boundaries still. Yeah, I get that.
It's different from, like a Formula 1 car is completely different to your Mondeo, you know what I mean? And for me, like a GP bike should be a bit like that. But it does. Yeah, it got out of control for a bit, but I think they've tried to rein it in a little bit, and I think it looks quite cool with the front wings on it and that, and all the little intricate bits. And
she's going to make the racing a bit more entertaining, hasn't it?
Yeah,
that's the bit. That's the only thing that it's sort of holding back on, and this front tire pressure thing and all the stuff that's going on with that.
I think anything what will make the racing better is obviously it's going to be better, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. So the final, you'd be pleased to know, final question. Well, usually there's 2, but you can't have a favourite corner because you don't race.
Oh.
So I can't use that one. What's your best hire car story?
I wouldn't say it's a hire car story, and I want to keep my gold privilege car with Europe car, so I'm going to stay to pause.
So I wasn't driving, so here we go.
It was I think Frankie Carcetti touched on it a bit on his hire car story. It's when we got, when it was GSE, we had 2 Peugeot, I think 1,000 and some of it was called like the people carriers, like the
one double
spiders, the ambassador of the time, whatever they were. And first 3 went to Monza, and we've been out for dinner, and it's like 4 of us in one, 4 of us in the other. Coming off our slip road, going down to a roundabout. I think Troy Benrose was driving. He went to go like English way around a roundabout. Last minute, obviously, I thought he was on right side of the road. And Dave parked sandwich and boof, crashed into the back of it, smashed the back of one end up, completely smashed the front end of the other one up. I had to ring Colin Wright, saying a little bit of a problem, and obviously he wasn't happy. So then parked him in Monza. We used to park him back end facing, all the damage facing out. And then on the Sunday, Mandy, the hospitality girl, was taking Daryl Healy to the airport, and he had these electric doors on it. You press the button, the doors are slide open. So he's got in it, he couldn't press the button fast enough. She's gone to set off, caught the door on the fence post and ripped the side door of this bloody thing off. So the door's hanging off. Just jumped in the other one, I can't remember if the front end was smashed or whatever. But then we had to drive these back to England. We had to duct tape the side door on, duct tape the bloody thing. And me, Frankie and Mandy was in the one where the door missing and the rear were all smashed in. Driving I think it might have been in France, and the bloody boot popped open. All his luggage was coming out. Frankie's laptop spinning down the motorway. It was just Jesus Christ, we're had a mess here. They got gone back to the UK, and there was that damaged. We didn't get them back. So they didn't have the parts to. There was the first 2 in the UK. Yeah, and they didn't give them back.
We'll keep those things.
Yeah, a bit of a catalogue of disasters that weekend.
At least fair play to them. They made it back to the They made it back to the UK. So, testament to the car.
On the duct tape.
One of the duct tape that was holding it together. Mate, thank you. This has been absolutely fascinating. I've loved every second of this. We finally managed to get it done.
Yeah.
We wish you all the best with Iagora for next year. We'll sit down and do this again.
Yeah.
There's plenty more stories to be told.
With gaps on that.
There's filling a few gaps, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is the first of 5 or maybe 6 for the mechanics side of things, and I think they're going to go down an absolute storm. So all that remains to be said is, ladies and gentlemen, it's Matt Lloyd.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate.
A massive thank you to Matt for his time. It's not easy doing these chats when you've never done anything like it before, and I thought you did a fantastic job. So well done, mate, and thank you again for your time and for the gifts. Next week, it's Matt's brother, Mark Lloyd, Pup as he's better known, Red Bull KTM chief mechanic to Brad Binder. Again, more stories from the TT, from World Superbikes with Castrol Honda, through to MotoGP with Repsol Honda and more, and finally ended up at KTM. There's a plethora of stories to come next week, and I can't wait to bring them to you. So please make sure you tune in. Until then, as always, thank you so very much for watching, and please do look after yourself. Bye-bye.